of that.
Yeah, it's true. I'm expecting a Chip Drake.
We'll go ahead and get started, and we're gonna start with Osborne and playground. Yay.
Awesome. I'm happy to give an introduction and then hand it over to John. So yeah, this time it's provided to discuss the Osborne Playground project. I do just really want to quickly point out, we have 25 minutes to discuss this. John does have a hard stop. He has other scheduled commitments, so hoping to end this one right on schedule at 5:55. And then I also did want to mention, this is a standalone item regarding the playground, so we're hoping to just keep the discussion to the playground and not the rest of the Osborne property as a whole. So generally, John, Tom, and the neighborhood playground committee have been working really hard on this project, and we're super excited to be here tonight sharing this with you. The playground that we're proposing is the gold standard. It's a really huge community asset, and it gives space and resources for healthy lifestyle for all ages and abilities. On top of all that, this playground is going to be fully accredited. So they have different levels of accreditation and different components that can be accredited. So this is, it's through Playcore, but they have what they call national demonstration sites. And so this playground will be a national demonstration site for inclusivity, physical activity, and adult fitness. So fully the inclusivity piece means that it's inclusive for all abilities. The physical activity, this portion, the accreditation for the physical activity really talks about getting community members active through play. And so they've specifically designed this and the components of their playground to get, I think it's primarily children, but get people moving and playing and kind of create healthier lifestyles as part of the process. And then there's also an adult fitness component that has workout equipment that is inclusive of all ages as well. So this really will be unlike other playgrounds. It's a destination playground, and as part of the accreditation, this playground will show up on the map for Playcore, which targets populations with different abilities as well, so that people can say, hey, there is this playground in Leavenworth. We are going to take our family here in order to use it. And I did want to point out too, it's pretty cool. The first fully inclusive playground in the region was only built in 2022 in East Wenatchee. It's at Clovis Elementary School. So this is a really new thing, and it's pretty cool to be proposing such a thing in our town. So the last item I want to touch on before handing it over to John is just the budget and funding sources. So I think what was included in your packet was a little under $1.1 million. We are still refining this project, but for the sake of this discussion, we're going to use the budget number of $1.2 million. So it is expensive. At the same time, we have just over $566,000 budgeted in the 2024 budget for the Osborne Park improvements. So the remainder of the $634,000, we'll be looking at a mix of both lodging tax and general fund. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to John, and he's going to focus on what the neighborhood playground committee has been updated.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Chance. I'm the Parks Division Supervisor for Public Works Department. I know most of you. There's a couple new faces. How are you doing? Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. The background on that. So I'd just like to give you guys a little background on the work that the neighborhood playground committee or the playground committee has been doing. We formed on direction of the council in early July of 2023. Our goal was to redesign a new playground for the Osborne property. And our goal was also to have it fully accessible and inclusive for all levels of ability. The committee was formed. The committee has debated pieces of this layout, and we built consensus around the following. So the footprint of the playground, generally speaking. So we decided to, We decided to keep it the same layout and size exactly as what's there currently. So here's the playground that it is now. And we talked about shrinking it, for budget purposes. But we ended up not doing that because so that we could add in this adult and senior exercise area. And then you'll notice around the perimeter, there's this track. So that's actually a concrete walking track for kids for biking, not necessarily like BMX biking, but like little kids strider bikes and such. And also it could be, your couple of moms bring the kids to the playground, and they take a couple laps around the kids to play. So very active lifestyle and multi-use for that area. So the next issue that we went over was surfacing, and obviously you kind of have two main options for surfacing for playgrounds. And that is wood chips or engineered wood fiber, and this stuff, which is called poured in place rubber surfacing. And so it's a very solid surfacing, and it's it really lends itself to mobility devices. As you can imagine, bark, especially when it's freshly laid, you kind of, your wheelchair might just really dig in, and it's not very accessible. Although it does meet ADA standards for accessibility, and common sense says it doesn't really work well. So we did choose this option. It is more expensive, but it does get us that accessibility.
John, what's the name of that surface?
It's poured in place rubber surface.
Poured in place?
Yeah. And then the next was we went through our list of must-haves. So in any playground, you need a swing set, right? And so we looked at the size of the swing set, how many swings, what other types of swings we want. This is something called a mom ending, where you could, the adult could like swing on it or stand or sit on the swing, and then the toddlers in the cradle seat. And then this is a bigger bucket seat for a swing, and then this, I don't know exactly what they call it, maybe you.
No, we call it like a
That's
satellite.
that light chair. You have like 3 kids on this chair, so you notice it has its own bay. So it's, 2 or 3 kids can easily comfortably swing on that. And then the other must-haves would be the 2 through 5 play structure. And so when I say 2 through 5, what I mean is your age is 2 through 5 years old. That's what it's designed for. And then the play structure of the 5 through 12, which again, 5-year-old through 12-year-old. And so it's not that 5 to 12-year-olds can't play on the structure, it's just not designed for them. And 2 through 5 can play on the structure, it's just not designed for them. They're gonna need a little extra watching, some help when they're playing. So the layout of the equipment is something we put a lot of thought and effort into as well. So originally, all the exercise equipment was on this side, but we talked about the entrance. So just so you guys have an idea of how this lays, this would be birch up here, and this would be orchard over here. And so initially, the exercise equipment was over on this side, but this is really going to be your main entrance. And so just for accessibility and ease of entrance into the park, we pull out that. And then we had a jockey around the swing set and a lot of other stuff just to fit everything. And then color scheme is kind of the last thing that I think we pretty much landed on my color scheme. And then the next piece of work that the committee did was we identified 2 areas that needed additional input for the community. So the first one, and I'll leave it on the slide for the first one, that was the exercise equipment. So none of us were experts in fitness, physical therapy, any of that on the committee. So we decided on a course of action to reach out to subject matter experts. So we sent out, and actually Maggie spearheaded this, she sent out a long email with, an email with 15 different options to a local physical therapist, an occupational therapist, and a personal trainer. And we asked them to prioritize the equipment and in order of most useful to least useful, and then any other things that we may not be thinking about in the day. And they gave us some great feedback. Maggie took that data, synthesized this, and then we talked about it in our last committee meeting. So that's kind of where we're at now with that. And we have it down to a list of 7 pieces that will replace these. This is just what Game Time gave us when we told them this was our wish. And we all kind of looked at this and we're like, we like some of it, we didn't love all of it. But we wanted to make sure it was useful if we're going to spend the money to do this. So with that said, our next piece of community input we wanted is actually in process right now. So the city on its website has a survey out to all community members. We're hoping to target school-age children for feedback. And I'll flip through a couple slides here. These are the common options. If we land on this, it's sidetracked.
Do you want the survey?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, is that not gonna say much? Yeah, thank you. That'd be great. I was thinking I need this up there. So anyways, and then we also sent this survey out to the Cascade School District. So our original hope and idea was that we could get representatives from the playground committee to go into the schools and set up a booth and have options for them to vote on the stickers in person. It turned out the most expedient path forward was to do it online survey, and that's what the school district would have liked us to do. So that is what we did.
Here's the.
Thank you. So kind of step aside a little bit. Keep going. Did I do that? So on this, you can see this is the same playground, the same layout of the playground, but it has the exercise equipment cut off. That's because it's really not their purview for input. Because we do want the school age children's input. So you'll notice it differs from the other layout I showed you, or right here. We felt like we had enough monkey bars and we wanted to create some space in the middle for a bigger standalone plant. So area A, our two options there are the inclusive seesaw or the inclusive world. So that's like the old school merry-go-round. Pretty cool. But it does limit the speed they have the governors with it. Yeah, and then something else cool to note about the inclusive world is it actually sits absolutely flush with that floor play surfacing. So there's no gap to get under that, or there's like a 1/4 inch reveal between the surfacing and the face of that. So your mobility device could just roll that. And then the seesaw, similarly, it's very inclusive. It has this place in the middle where you could actually get up and have somebody sit on there. And these seats are all 4 seats are very easy to transfer. So those are the two options we're asking, opposing each other for area A. And then area B, you just hold that area in your mind right for a second. We'll swap to the next slide. And we'll do swap to the next slide.
Oh, you should be able to manage click
Oh,
on there.
okay, thank you. So for area B, we have the sensory dome versus the Catalina climber. And you'll notice the picture is kind of different. That's a pretty new piece of equipment. So we weren't able to get the same kind of 3D mock-up. We had to take a snip from YouTube. The sensory dome is basically like a jungle gym. But then you can see these holes that are kind of in the middle, these negative spaces. They have panels that you can put in. And they would have different options for these panels. We could have ball bearings for, tactile input. You might have one that's like an hourglass that you could turn and the sand goes through, so you'd have audible input. And then perhaps some that have light or different color spectrums, so you could have that visual sensory input. And then the Catalina climber has a lot of stippling and tactile stuff, and it's a cool kind of a bridge that you can climb up on the top and go over this bridge. And then real quick, and then area C, what we're asking for here is we have 2 options. And we have 2 different neck climbers that are functionally linked to the 5 through 12 play structure. So this one is a little bit smaller, but with this option, you get to keep both of these 2 slides from the 8-foot platform. And then this rope sky tower, this is skylift tower. We have some silly ones. Is a little bit bigger, but with that, if kids choose that option, then they lose one of those 8-foot slides. This one actually goes away with that option. So, good. And with that, I hope I left some time for you guys for questions or concerns, thoughts, discussion. Oh, sorry, no, hold on. I want to back up. So I wanted to highlight some of the members of the neighborhood playground committee. So we had 3 community members that are serving on that. We have 1 council member and 2 staff members. And the community members are Lisa Barrett, Catherine Ferguson, and Maggie Richter, and Maggie's joining us here today. And then from council, we have Ms. Councilmember Sharon Waters. And then, from staff, Public Works Director Tom Walker. Okay, cool. And so I'd love to take your questions.
I was gonna ask you on the pour in place surface, so how does that respond to, winter snows?
I think it's pretty favorable. They do a concrete slurry under, and so there's quite a bit of, there's some good, it provides for good drainage. And it actually will fare better than the engineered wood fiber, because that gets compressed in the winter, and then you lose about an inch a year with the engineered wood fiber. So after 3 to 4 years, you have to go test the depth and then replenish it. For this, you won't have to. You might have a little color bleaching, but I think it's gonna take 10, 15 years so you can see that.
Really? So they've had other places like us that receive that kind of weatherization, this works?
Yeah, this is a pretty common surfacing all across.
Would you mind putting the picture back that has the whole thing with the adult exercise area and all, that, just so we can think about that?
It's in your packet.
Yes, I can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I wanted to follow up with something you said in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And by the way, thanks for doing all this work. I can tell that, you all have put so much thought into it. One thing you said in the beginning, I live a couple blocks away, is that the people that would build it would declare it to be a certain thing to attract families to it in the future. And so my thought about that is that I don't know if that means tourist families or visitor families, which would have to do with parking in the neighborhood and, because I was thinking this was more a locals park. So what's that part about?
That's a really good question. I don't think that we designed it intentionally to draw tourists to it. And I would say, just from my own personal view, I don't think people are gonna come to town just for this.
Sure.
But I think the people that are in town are going to use it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And I think, just because of the parking situation, I think people are kind of parking up in that area anyways.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah,
So,
Play Corp
did I
is a
capture
company,
kind of
right? Play Corp is a corporation that they're accrediting it. What does that mean? Is that a sale? It's a sales pitch? They're the company.
So I think if you had a child with disabilities and you were planning your vacation, it might be something you would find within your search.
To go to playcorp.com. Did people do that? That's the thing,
Yeah.
they give you metrics on like, we get 1 million hits, people are searching it and we got this map and it's interactive and shows where these parks are.
Yeah, I'm sure we could find
Yeah.
data.
I'm just curious, no, it's good, you guys, I'm just curious.
It's pretty easy
Seems
to find
kind
if
of
you
funny.
Google it, you can find like the inclusive playground map that they provide. And so I just quick looked at it earlier today to take a look, and there's only a few in eastern Washington. I do think that this is kind of a newer thing
Yeah.
that we're.
The corporations create their own accrediting, it just I'm just wondering the depth of it.
Yeah, what is that?
What is it?
And I think we're still trying to wrap our heads around that a little bit too,
Yeah.
but it is a cool thing, but I would be kind of curious myself.
Yeah, but I'm curious,
What's the outreach?
This is super cool, right? And I know it's not modular necessarily, but do you guys have when you get this set in to look out 5 years and kind of look back and say, okay, these blue slides are getting used a lot, but nobody's touched the slide to the north. Let's put something else there. Or, I live by WWRI and I'm the only one that hops like a bunny to the next station and does lunges. It's the same kind of thing here, right? What if zero adults really kind of use this? Can you put some kid stuff over there? Is that part of it?
It's definitely harder with this servicing. You really would have to cut it out. The
Yeah.
servicing, pull out the equipment, put your new stuff in,
Yeah,
and then put the four footings, and then you'd have to patch around it. So
okay.
I'm not gonna say it's not doable, but I
It's not
think
modular,
it's
it's kind of
cost
look-
effective,
yeah.
but that is why, we spent almost a year, kind of designing this and looking at the waterfront playgrounds, which was the most recent one we had done before this.
Yeah.
And what is used, what isn't used.
Yeah.
And then, that's why we're trying to get community input. We worked with Great Western Recreation, who is the game time supplier, and so they have some experts and they can tell us, what are the popular things. So we feel like we've done some of that
Yeah,
work.
you're presenting it. You
You never know.
if you build it, they will come, but if they don't go, you've done your part, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Good job, yeah.
John, I guess I want to ask you, given this community that's sort of tied into outdoor activities and has two workout gyms already, I'm just wondering, what's the thinking behind committing a section for adult exercise?
That's a good question. So we had already budgeted money the city had for outside adult exercise equipment. And the thinking originally was to put it down in the trail system. But I think the rationale there is free. It's free. I mean, there's no barrier to entry.
Right.
You get there, it's, no pressure, you just use it.
Well, and you've got grandkids, the great grandkids that you may be taking down, or your own kids. And it's just be out in the fresh air and
Gives you something to
and
do.
gives you
while they're
something to
playing.
do and something that will help you. And of course, you'll be visiting with meeting other people there too, other old people.
I've used that area for an exercise class. And we've used some of the equipment there. And I liked working outside instead of inside, and
Absolutely.
people being able to come in and out, having it be free. So, we've used that in the past and really liked it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'm thinking about is I've been thinking about the whole Blue Zones thing. Some of you have probably seen it on Netflix, but I got the book several years ago because I'm so interested in it. And one of the things they emphasize in a healthy community is activity, especially for adults. And so this creates a focal point for that. So, I like it.
Thank you.
To your point, that's it. Yeah, there was a group, maybe they still do it up on Ski Hill on Wednesdays or Mondays. They were kind of a CrossFit outdoor kind of group, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've seen this in Phoenix, people would start a gym in a park, right? The boot camps, and then they get a space in an industrial area and this is like an evolution of a small business, right? So I guess the danger is like somebody starts a gym here, has their people come and use this equipment, they're tying it up and am I just overthinking that
I'm
thing?
gonna kick that question to Sylvia.
Do they need to get a permit if somebody's like has a group of like 5 people? And
We wouldn't permit a commercial use of this like.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's good. Great.
In fact, Rona, if you attended an outdoor class there, that better not have been charged. You better not have paid anybody to take that.
A couple years ago. Yeah, actually, she didn't take money, but I donated.
Okay,
Yeah.
we did get her in, but
What's that? She said.
just give it to her. Yeah.
Okay, I know you have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, happy to field another question.
You want me to talk about LT at all? Well, it was gonna be very bad.
Sorry, what?
You had mentioned the funding potentially.
Yeah,
Although John said this is not going to be promoted for tourism, maybe he didn't say it that way, but I'm saying it that way.
yeah,
The point is, this is something with the accreditation, it will be known to tourists. It
Yes.
will be utilized, as we know, by some tourists on occasion. And that gives us the ability to look at the potential use of some lodging tax dollars.
Right.
So that does help you guys, because your general fund you can use for anything. Lodging tax has very tight restrictions.
And we have more lodging tax than we do general fund.
yeah, always.
I'm curious though, as we look at the pool and some monies that are needed to fix the pool, is this taking? Could the pool use these monies to be repaired or is this a different?
Different, but
Okay,
we're already helping the pool with lodging tax to the max that we can per
Yeah.
previous studies.
I'll get that in the logic tax.
And a big chunk of this is ARPA. I don't know if you had kind of told them about that. But
Most of them know, the newer folks may not know. We've been holding the ARPA funds. Those are federal allocated funds from COVID. And this year is the deadline to commit and spend those funds. So we do need to spend it and we have $566,000. So over close to half of this project is coming from those one-time funds from the federal government.
John, when do you plan to have, if the thing stays on schedule? When will this actually get in place? You got an idea yet, or is that just still out there?
our hope is that we will be coming back to you in about a month to ask for one.
Okay.
If our design continues to go the way we think it's going and we're keep on schedule, we're hoping to be here in March, asking you to. And if that's the case, I mean, it would just depend on getting on the schedule for the installers. But we're hoping to stay on track for this year, if everything goes great.
So if things work, it's within the year?
Yep.
And,
Late
one,
summer.
Yes,
Late
yeah.
summer, early fall.
So the unfortunate timing of it would be right before winter, you would have a brand new.
Yeah.
That's just the way things work. right?
But we will commit the ARPA funds and not lose them back to the federal
Correct.
government.
Right.
and what's the estimated timeline for construction?
Ooh, they would need to, or if we did it this year, I don't know the answer to
Okay,
that. right?
that's okay.
But if they did it, they would need to have the port in place rubber surfacing done before October.
Gotcha.
So I think construction would be 5 months, 6 months.
I think it takes them 4 to 6 months to like, it's all the equipment is like custom created by our order. I think that takes like 3 to 5 months, and then there's all the like scheduling for getting the other.
So if
pieces.
you're-
That's why we're pushing hard for that, like.
So if you're
April
giving
1st.
funding, if you're given funding authorization in March,
We will spend.
that gives you a
that.
6 months lead time.
Then we get our order in,
Yeah.
get that equipment.
Great.
Have
Work.
have we taken this to a community engagement night?
So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, 2 plus the
Last two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll let you guys get back to the rest of your items. Thank you so much for having.
Yeah,
me.
Thank you,
thanks,
John.
John.
Thanks.
Nice work, John.
We appreciate your support. See you guys.
Yeah. Okay, next item up is using the ADU pre-approved plans for single family residents.
I'm
Yes,
taking the lead
You're
on that.
taking that, okay.
So this is just an opportunity to discuss, our existing pre-approved plans for ADUs. Currently, you cannot, public is not able to use them for a primary, single-family dwelling. So the discussion came up to maybe open up the pre-approved plans to allow them to be used for single family as well. And possibly in the future, if we allow for cottage housing to be used there. There's been discussion, we still have not permitted one. There's been a lot of interest. I think, she says over a dozen have consulted with, Syndicate Smith, but just it hasn't followed through. We did get a permit in, it just, because of the cost of construction, it just didn't pan out. So that's been really the hard thing, it's just the cost of building right now. This isn't a program we want to lose. There's a lot of other agencies that are moving forward with this. I know City of Wenatchee, City of East Wenatchee have adopted pre-approved plans now as well. So anyway, it's just the discussion with you as a council to see if you would want to allow this to be used in, I guess, more options for single family in addition to ADUs.
Could we kind of get, Maggie, an overview of where we're at with this? Because I remember being at a meeting where a number of ADUs have been built in town because they've been encouraged for the last several years.
Yeah.
But most of them are not rented out. And so we're thinking to build more ADUs. Just explain the logic about it.
I mean, I think that this was piggybacked off our housing action plan and needing more variety of housing, more housing stock and smaller. So all of these designs are under 900 square feet. So if they're used as an ADU, they don't require a second water sewer connection to our system. So it's more affordable for people to build them. One of the contingencies, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was that if somebody used the pre-approved plans, it could not be used as like a B&B or a short-term rental. That was my understanding.
So we're talking about, I'm sorry, I got kind of lost. So the
Sorry.
difference between what we're doing now, which they're not being used very much for other
Right.
people to live in.
Okay.
The difference between what you are suggesting and that is what? That these would be,
That somebody could purchase the pre-approved plans to build a small house.
and would they own that little bit of the lot then, or just that they could purchase?
Yes,
them?
this is just that if somebody wanted to build a single family dwelling on a vacant lot, they could use the pre-approved plans to build a single family. It wouldn't just apply to ADUs.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. Okay,
That's what
I get
It's
it.
expanding the use of it.
Yeah.
beyond the
I
So if somebody wanted to build a small house instead,
Sure.
they could use the pre-approved plans.
I
And
get
it's a cost benefit to them.
And no one has done it yet because it's
No.
so expensive. Okay.
Is every plan, every, picture that the Syndicate Smith came up with, are they all 900?
There are
Square feet.
ones 400 and something, they're all under that 900.
They're all
threshold.
under
So the
that.
biggest one is,
886.
thank you. And it includes a garage, with the dwelling of that. So there's a variety, and then they have modern style and then more of the traditional style. For folks to choose from. One of them is designed for accessibility.
On a larger.
So there's, I think, 3 different options.
Setback is there.
For folks to choose from, and we have had phone calls with people asking and saying, well, I want to use this to build a single family home, and currently they're limited to only ADUs. So that was the discussion, I guess, to broaden the use of them.
Why have we been restricting the use of these designs to just ADUs since they could be used easily as a single family residence?
I can't.
We don't have that in our code, so why have we been applying it that way?
Because that's how we build the program that built those and paid for them, was to
Well,
expand the ADUs.
If we're trying to increase our housing stock, why are we restricting people from using those plans?
That's the discussion here. You don't have to restrict it, but when we initiated the program, it was.
I know that they were
For
designed
ADUs.
to be
Right.
to be more specifically as ADUs as an addition to a property that already has a single family residence, but I don't understand why people would be told that they can't use these plans if their intent is just to establish their first residence. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, so you're voting in favor of expanding the use, sounds like.
Well, we're not voting on this, but
No,
um,
but I'm saying you're.
well, I'm just
voicing-
curious why when one of the main priorities of the city council is to increase housing stock, why people have been restricted to only using these designs as ADUs when it makes sense that they would be residences anyways.
Like I said, I think it was simply because that's what the program was. We purchased those designs for ADUs. So,
Is that what Syndicate Smith kind of designated, or, I mean, when they came up?
well,
with
we contracted with them to do
Right.
those designs for
that?
different types of ADUs, and that's how it was, put into play.
Is it possible to put, and they're we use the word tiny home loosely
Right.
here, right? It's a tiny home, we're really kind of speaking.
Cottage homes, yeah.
Cottage home. And there's communities of cottage home.
Right.
There's, somebody was talking about East Leavenworth Road, there's a piece of property, and I was gonna buy in on that, putting 6 different 900 square foot homes in a common, barn area for storage, and a really kind of cool community within the
Mhm.
community. Would someone be allowed to put 2 smaller homes and sell that to someone, like parcel their property, and I guess it would be a part of a separate home, wouldn't it? Or at least the land, I mean, I'm just saying, can you put 2 of these on one larger property?
Well, with the state law changing, with our 2026 comp plan update, we will be required to allow up to 2 ADUs per lot.
Yeah, okay.
And then, but as far as subdivision, then you're getting into unit lot subdivision and
So, yeah,
things like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
we haven't adopted.
So 2,
anything like
okay, yeah.
that. So it'd still be one single ownership. But you could.
No,
rent
but
them,
part of that update is
Yes.
also that you can divide those
Looking at the
lots.
unit lot.
Right. Yeah, that you can
This is
sell.
on the docket for this.
That's great, okay, so this kind of leads right in.
And so you can put the 2 ADUs on one piece of property, excuse me. But they can't be used as a B and B. True.
Correct, I mean, yeah, I mean. the
Without a
way our-
conditional use permit.
But yeah, and the way our B and B code is written, you can only either have a 1-bedroom ADU as a B and B. But I believe when we drafted this whole plan for the pre-approved plans, I'm sorry, I've been out of this for a while, but I believe one of the discussion topics was that if somebody uses this program to build their ADU, they could not then use it as a B. I would have to look into that a little bit more, but I think the incentive was that if they were going to use the pre-approved plan, it would have to be long-term too, because it was part of
Okay,
needing additional housing.
that's what we think it is anyway, on
Yeah,
that.
I don't want to misspeak, so I would need to follow up. It's been a while.
And so if it was a B and B, the owner would have to live on the property. If not, you could just rent out 2 ADUs.
Right, as long-term.
Okay. And is the hope that they'll be rented out as affordable?
We
We
can't
can't
No,
force
there's no
anybody to do
guarantee.
that.
Pardon me?
We can't force anybody to do that on their property.
I think. the
I know,
hope is-
because it hasn't worked yet.
Right.
I think the hope is that by offering a smaller unit type, that the price would actually come down.
It's more affordable, but it's not, I would call it.
Right, it's not,
Yeah.
right.
affordability
Yeah.
term, but it's allowing for more
Slippery
housing
slope.
stock, more variety and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody was going to do that, they would have to pay for the plan like you do for any house you build.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
just at a discounted kind of,
Okay.
Right, because it's already kind of beat
yeah,
down.
and knowing that it's already been reviewed and approved by
Right.
the city. So it's really, we're looking at the site plan and how does this fit on their site?
Thanks.
Well, I guess I agree with Ann on this. I just don't see why, anyone that wants to build a tiny house shouldn't be able to use any good design. It doesn't, I mean, if that's the only thing we're really talking about here, which I think it is,
Yeah, it's just a policy discussion.
yeah, I just don't see a problem.
Yeah, I don't see anything in our code that prohibit this. It's just when you go to the section of the website, and I believe, and I wasn't here when this program was developed, to incentivize or make it easier to build ADUs.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that was done, but the cost of construction, and when you read the write-up, like,
I agree that the primary conversation was about making ADUs more affordable so as to incentivize the development of them on the lots. But it was never discussed to restrict the use specifically to ADUs. And I think if we would have had that conversation, the council would have never supported that. Like, why would we only allow these designs to be used as ADUs if people are asking to build tiny homes on their property as their primary structure? That doesn't make any sense.
I agree with you.
We're all in agreement. All right, any other comments on that? Go ahead and move on to designated sign area discussion.
Thanks, Mayor. Council, at your August 8th meeting, you adopted Ordinance 1677, which amended the city's sign regulations to prohibit political election signs within the right of way of Highway 2, and to require the written consent of abutting property owners when such signs are placed within the city's right of way. At that meeting, you requested that staff bring forth for future discussion potential changes to the designated sign area portion of the code. With the changes created by Ordinance 1677, the political election signs are not currently allowed within several of the designated sign areas. So I'm responding to your request to talk about this. Within your packet, you'll see the location of those designated sign areas, and some of them are within the Highway 2 right of way. So this conversation is about whether or not you want to amend our code to allow for political election campaign signs in those areas
Along Highway 2?
along Highway 2, which is not. the
I thought
highway-
we can't because. of
DOT
the
didn't want it, correct.
Right.
But we still need to amend the code either way, because the DSA, if you read it, it doesn't specifically prohibit the campaign signs in this section of the code.
I thought this discussion was more about whether we reinstitute those sign areas in the city right away that were designated before, that we got rid of and said, everybody, you need a permission for all signage that abuts another, if it's in a city right of way, that the adjacent property. We got rid of the one at Crystal's. We got rid of the ones down on the Chumstick. Unless you had permission from, on that one, it was from Conlin that you had to get permission from. And this one, it would have been Crystal's. So I thought the discussion was, do we want to bring back those where you don't need, we got designated sign areas that you don't need permission. And I thought what we wanted to look for myself was other areas to replace the ones off of Highway 2 in other spots in the city, like further up Ski Hill, or, if there's another place where we've got some right of way that would make sense to designate. That's what I thought we were looking for.
Okay.
Because right now, we don't have any designated sign.
I didn't think we eliminated them all. I thought we
Yeah,
only
I
eliminated
didn't
the
know we
ones on
took-
Highway 2.
No, we eliminated them all.
Yeah, you did.
Well,
I didn't think we
yeah,
did either.
with the change in the code, it requires abutting property permission.
I do remember that part. I knew we needed approval.
That
of
would
the
apply
adjacent
to these
property owner.
DSAs. You would only be able to put your campaign sign up in these designated sign areas if you also got permission.
Right. Which before you didn't. They were designated sign areas. You didn't need permission to put them in designated sign areas.
Well, to be honest, I thought it's only on Highway 2 right away that they needed the permission of the.
No,
property
they
owner.
can do it, even if they had permission, you can't do it on the highway too.
So that's just gone?
That was
That's gone.
gone.
Okay.
And then on the other, we just
City
get away with
right-of-ways.
it, except for if you got permission. And then the idea was we can relook at that after the campaign was over and everything. We could relook at reestablishing some designated areas where you wouldn't need to get that adjacent.
Thought you guys, at the last previous council had really kind of come up with a good solution, right? There was a couple corners at Chumstick and the two that were, you guys outlined.
Those already existed. And what we did do was we made a change in August to require written permission from abutting property owners when placing signs within the city's right of way. Because otherwise it gives the illusion that someone is endorsing that candidate without that permission. And then we eliminated them from the Highway 2 right of way because that is allowing them is in contradiction to DOT's policy.
I feel like that was, you guys did a satisfactory job covering it. I'm unclear what we're talking about. I feel like it was established and done well and
Right.
but if you guys passed a resolution or something that was.
There was always those, as you pointed out, you saw those areas along highway or the Chumstick and spots there. Those were all designated and you didn't need to get. So the rationale here was there were people placing them in city right away.
Yeah.
That didn't get permission of adjacent, but it made it look like those adjacent. Well, if it's designated by the city to be a sign area, you get around
Yeah,
that.
right.
Then everybody can have theirs
That's
there
great,
and you don't get that confusion of an endorsement. And that's why we had a few spots, some of them on Highway 2, and we're not gonna put those back up, I don't think.
Right.
But there are others, like you said, along Chumstick and along Crystals there. And then we talked about, are there some others that would make sense in the city out of the highway? That we wouldn't have that kind of problem of people putting them up without getting, and anywhere else you would need to get the adjacent property owner. If it wasn't in the designated areas, you would need to get that adjacent. Or if you want, you just leave it as it is, and even to do those, you'd have to get like Tom Lynn or the or Crystals or somebody else to, approve.
Why are we in the state's right away doing anything? I mean, if it's the state and it's their right of way, why is the city in there?
We're talking about city right of ways now.
Okay, but I thought you mentioned.
This section of the code needs to change one way or the other. Because we have designated sign areas within Highway 2 right of way, and the DOT doesn't want us littering the Highway 2 right of way with signs.
Yeah.
So the DSA section of the code has to change. The question is, do you want to add some additional designated, do you want to add some additional areas to designate as designated sign areas? And do you want to require permission of the abutting property owner? But what we could do is strategically find right of way that's not adjacent to private property, but only adjacent to our property. Or PUD property, or, some other public entity.
Well, I'd be in favor of, when it's city right away, I'd be in favor of withdrawing the need to get the permission of the adjacent property owner. Because that's the way it was.
Then you're gonna run into the problem that we had with the hospital.
The hospital, yeah, with Becky.
That was on city right away, that there were signs placed. And the hospital wasn't comfortable with it. 'cause it looks
Okay,
like
I didn't realize there was a thing down by the hospital.
Yes.
And it could be removed, but the hospital came out and actually said in that group that they did. So they had to
They
take
didn't like
effort
the
into
impression.
that, but it was.
Well, they
replaced,
they
but it
didn't
was- it looked
remove,
bad.
but what they did is put a sign up that said that the
The hospital
hospital
sign.
does not endorse any candidate.
Okay,
We're trying to avoid that.
right.
So if you need the adjacent, they would have had to have the hospital's permission.
I would be in favor of the adjacent.
Yeah.
Of
But I'm
requiring.
not, if you went to the property owner and asked if you could put a sign down there, we might say, put it in my yard, I don't know. But as far as us taking care of state right of way, that's their problem.
But we're not talking state.
I thought you were talking about on the highway.
No, we're not talking.
We've
we're
eliminated,
not-
we've eliminated them.
That's not a question.
Okay, but we're not gonna deal, if somebody does put their sign there,
We're not gonna let.
No, we don't allow them, period.
if it's on, I'm talking about it's on state property.
They don't want it.
They don't,
Well, then they
state
should
owner.
come and pick it up.
they don't though.
They won't.
They.
Why are we doing that?
Because we dealt with this all last
Yeah.
campaign season, Sharon, and we reached out to DOT and they said, that is your problem. We understand it's our right of way, but you maintain and we are not gonna get in the middle of this. So
So,
they put the
but,
enforcement of that on the city. We're trying to get us out of that.
so
Okay. I think.
the place is,
I think good for them.
are there places where the city's right of way is separate enough that we could allow it be for, everybody could put a sign there
Without permission,
without any permission?
right, because it's not connected.
Because it's not
to the property.
connected, or again, it's tradition. I mean, we've had some traditional spots that did function.
I'm in favor of that. How long is it gonna take is the next question, because we've got a presidential campaign coming up and signs are gonna start popping up.
Yeah.
If it's gonna take a couple months for you to identify those and come back to us, I'm not for that. I think we should just go with what we've got. Or if it's a short amount of time to identify those, let's do it all at once.
I'm saying we had some that were designated. If you just want to keep those same ones, it's not a big,
I think they,
I was saying.
Some of the ones that are designated, it's nearly impossible to actually get a sign in the ground.
Yeah.
For the
So they're
hand-
not particularly
They're
useful.
not.
They need to actually be feasible locations for people to
where
use.
there's a will, there's a way.
Cameras work.
Yeah, how sharp do you get those signs?
I have a couple thoughts about this. I mean, the three of us did our signs and we're all here, so it worked for us. So, but speaking about democracy, and so I'm thinking about democracy. I think that the city should support city council signs. I think they should, because we're serving the city. Secondly, I think that by private individuals or businesses like Thomas Lynn, you would have no way of knowing that's his property unless you knew him personally, that piece on the corner there. But it's a little bit like private businesses or individuals get to say who politically they support in that city property. So I find that a tiny bit problematic, I think it's more democratic to allow something on city property that lets people that want to do this job and run for this job, all of which is a lot, you give them a space.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about it. And I would care less about, if I'm just worried about the politics of an agency or an individual going, well, I don't want you on my property. It becomes more and more about a popularity contest. So when we ran, we had to ask permission from every single person in every lawn we were at. We had no support for putting up any signs anywhere else. And if they didn't happen to support our, position or something, they would say no. And so I don't know if that's quite the way we want to be.
Well, I think it makes the most sense to say, because otherwise you looks like, if somebody sees a sign in front of a house, they're not gonna say that's city property. They're gonna say that goes with that house. So signs are a way of endorsing. I mean, that's what they do is, so otherwise you get, again, and that's the complaints we got, where people were frustrated that it was on city property, but it was in front of their place and they didn't want them there. And we didn't have a means until we said, okay, now you've got to get permission. Because again, that's also the politics.
Just another point of view.
Yeah, right.
So I guess it would be great to identify some places that individuals that want to serve the community could have a space.
These are all political signs though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Residential.
Is it presidential?
These are all political.
Yeah, the designated sign area, you can that's where you put your yard sale event.
Yeah.
That's where you
So
put
this is
your,
a sign,
we're
yeah.
doing empty bowls. That's where men would put up a sign for empty bowls. That's where people who put up, let's go
Lost
to
cat.
Brandon signs.
Oh.
I think we should have some.
But
Carl
who's gonna say,
was,
good, put him on my corner, put him in front of my house, make that thing.
was the hospital the only one that had an issue? Was there other ones?
There was others.
There were others,
There
at least
were-
at the
More
city.
widespread than just a single.
Right, and that's why we need to have some designated, I think, areas if we're gonna just allow any signs to be there. They need to be someplace that all signs could be there.
Yeah.
Well,
Does
if we
that
do
mean
this,
You
I would
can't put it
recommend
in
that,
front of your own house?
if we do this, I would
Oh,
recommend,
no, but in
I would
front of your
rec-
house.
I would recommend that if we do this, as far as requiring contacting the owner, that the city has a list of where the candidates can come and the contact list for those property owners is listed. Because it's like she said, like Rona said, who knows who's got what, so that's part of the difficulty.
I think we can find some strategic locations where people can place signs without
Right.
adjacent property ownership.
Yeah, that'd be.
Communication that's going to put everybody kind of on equal footing. And I would recommend that they're a block or less off of Highway 2, a clustered location, because that's going to be closest to like main thoroughfares where people are going to get visibility. And
What about in the residential areas where our voters live?
well, they all have to drive to, they all have to drive to one of these arterial outlets to get onto Highway 2, right? So they're all gonna drive, if we strategically place these all along the main arterial roads that feed into Highway 2, everyone's gonna have an opportunity for visibility. And some of those locations we've historically used.
Are you precluding some property owner from allowing someone to put their sign in the right of way in front of them?
No.
No, you're not. Okay,
No, these would just be designated areas where you don't have to get approval,
okay.
but other property owners, businesses can approve it.
Right.
If
Outside
they
of
have-
those areas, you would need to get that
If-
adjacent property owner.
But you need to write your name on.
You do,
all that
according to,
stuff?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, you do. And that wasn't done with any of the campaign signs.
it wasn't in there?
Well, if they place them in a designated sign area, they should have done that because that's what our code requires.
I never did that ever. I didn't know you were supposed to.
We can make that a more.
Well, that was prior to when you were.
Oh, that's prior, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This was just recent.
We actually have city right of way that is not connected to, that we have these areas available somewhere.
Yeah, so there's like one next to, if you look at in the packet, there's a couple that are unchanged with the prohibition on Highway 2. There's,
The one on First Street that everybody uses,
Mhm,
I think that's a great spot
I agree.
in the right of way.
And then the one at Ski Hill
It
next
has
to
great
Crystals,
visibility.
probably the one that's hard to pound it into.
That, well, now that we've expanded the sidewalk,
Sidewalk.
that one's pretty much useless.
Then there's the Evan Street one, but I think that's a big bulletin board sign, so that one doesn't make much sense to me.
The city uses that for their own public notice.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And that's more of but the First Street makes a lot of sense.
That's recent.
And why don't you get together with me in the next month or so, hash out some different ideas.
Different spots.
I think that some of the existing locations that are off Highway 2 could be better utilized if the city just, like the spot that you were talking about that's on Evans by Summit. That place that you can't use it because it's a paved parking lot. But if the city put in like some sort of elevated planter box, that's the width of the stakes for signs, and people could just put their stakes in that box and line them up. Something like that could work really easily. That would encourage people to use a very designated location.
Could also
That would
do about-
keep cars from driving over the sidewalk in that location as well, because that's also kind of dangerous.
We've also got
Let's see.
Mill Street.
Where are we?
That's on
Yeah, Highwater's over
the
here.
highway.
Okay,
This is my
But I think there's some
street.
good spots on
This
the
is
north
back
and the
this
south
way.
side
Alright.
of
so this.
the highway that we could
Actually, it's
figure out
DSA.
some spots for. that could
That's
work.
city
Yeah, but
property.
that's a Highway 2 thing. I don't
It's-
think we
it's-
can use it.
It was
It's on
adjacent to some private there, I
Okay.
think, but it's within the right of way, right? City has right of way along the roads.
See, both of these are right along.
I also
Most of our
think that the
roads,
city owned
we can-
property
Okay.
that fronts Highway 2, that is part of the kind of like bus access of the park and ride and is the actual driveway to
do
the
it,
Forest Service that
City
the
right
city
away,
owns.
but it's.
There's a spot in there that we
Need to
could
permit.
potentially designate as well, because we own that. It's not Highway 2 right of way.
It's not Highway 2 right away.
Yeah,
We own it.
we went through that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the city parking lot?
Oh, yeah, what was it?
We
The,
own a really long sliver
yeah,
along
and they
Highway
wanted
2.
to put, parking back there. What is that place? It's a beer place or something on the highway, kind of by, Dan's Market.
Blue Spirit?
It was right in front of, it was kind of in front of, it came from that business and it went, there was like kind of a thin piece of property back
Yeah, I
there.
see it.
And it ended up, was the city's, no, was it Forest Service or city? It was Forest Service, I think, property.
Yeah, the Forest Service. Interestingly, most of the park and ride is on Forest Service property.
Why is it not going? There we go. This piece right here.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
So the US
maybe-
Forest Service is here. The park and ride is on their property.
Yep,
And then this we own.
Oh.
And if we did it up in this area here, it would be outside that Highway 2 right
Highway
away.
2.
Oh, okay.
Where's Blue Spirits? That's
Right.
Well, all of it's outside the right of
Blue
way.
Spirit's right here.
That whole parcel is outside the right of way.
Okay.
I mean, we
And-
could even designate in between the driveway and then the bus access lot, that small little sliver in there. We could designate that as well, so people could have highway visibility.
What about Pine Street? What's it going on there? In the grassy ditch part? Is that
Over
a
here?
sign place? Yeah, can there be signs there?
It's school property, right? I
Yeah.
think that would be an appropriate location.
Oh, it's school.
Well, yeah, you could do that. I mean, there's city right away there,
But the butter is the school.
right?
So you need permission from the school.
No.
Or not if we made it as a
designated-
sign area and we
If we
changed the code.
designated,
Oh,
it could be
okay.
another free-for-all place.
Yeah, the
Right.
community would see that. That'd be pretty good.
Is a butter a word?
A butter.
It is a word and a butter, yes.
Never heard it before. Oh dear.
All right, so sounds like you guys want to have further conversation. You want to look at some additional sign areas.
Yep,
I'll bring that to you in April.
okay.
We got time. All right. Next is our electronic signatures policy.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, it's you.
That's me. Okay, so after much consideration, I feel that it would be a far better use of resources for the city. To not have to pay our lawyers to come over and sign our ordinances and sign our contracts and everything. Use electronic signatures. Such as DocuSign is what I've done some research on all of this, and that's the most user-friendly one out there. And I feel like that's gonna be way more efficient and way much easier for us to conduct business. Because as it is now, like an ordinance will sit in my to be signed file for, 2 months, until the lawyer comes over. So, city attorney, excuse me. So, anyway, I don't know if you guys have anything to say about it or, yes.
What's the reason why we haven't been using DocuSign?
It's just never been anything anyone thought about. And I just said, I'm gonna whip up a policy, so.
Until this was in our packet, I honestly didn't know we were still wet signing everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2024,
Yeah.
and with the advent of COVID years ago, everybody was electric signing everything because
Yeah.
nobody was going into offices. I really didn't know we were still in the Stone Age.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it without having that passed by a policy by the council, and we haven't done that.
Well, and I actually went to a clerk training and they were talking about how they just do it all with DocuSign. And I said, well, you can do that? I didn't even realize that was an option for us, so. But yeah, and I talked to Tom Grafstra and he said, if you specify everything like ordinances and stuff, he said, we can sign it all on DocuSign. And I'm like, well, this is fantastic.
You just saved us tens of thousands of dollars a year.
For real.
And it's about a $1,200 investment to buy, 4 licenses.
Yeah.
But it's worth, I think, it. I think it's worth it. It will pay for itself, for sure.
Probably good to know, pre-COVID, we had an attorney here at every meeting. They signed every time they were here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the $1,200, is that yearly or
It's a year,
just a once? Okay,
So it's once a year and it's, and so we'll have Public Works, so Public Works will pay for one of them. The city administration will pay for one and, forgot who the third one.
Community development.
Community development, yes. And so they'll pay for that. There, I guess there's only 3 licenses we need. So, but yeah.
Sounds like a really good idea.
and so do you did a document and you put a thing on it and press a button and and it's signed?
Uh-huh.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel smart.
You signed a document today for an employee for a federal government form.
Yeah.
That's the way people buy houses now. They just click. You
Yeah.
don't have to sign it.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, you know, because I looked into, I know there was concern about, you know, can people alter the document? You cannot, because it just takes you to where you need to sign. And you can read the whole thing, but it gives you the whole document afterwards, after it's signed. And so it can't be altered at all. So I don't know if that made any sense. I'm sorry.
Somebody will find a way.
No,
Well,
it's
you know what?
impossible.
We like to think.
It's impossible. It's
Yeah.
electronically certified. The only thing you can do is click sign. That there's
Yeah.
nothing else you can do. You can never modify the document.
Seeing the word, it's an image of document.
You can read the whole thing, but you can't do anything to it.
Right.
My only suggestion on Exhibit A
Yeah,
would be under the administrative list of people who have authority would be to allow the mayor pro tem to also sign in case the mayor is out.
absolutely. Yes, I didn't even think about
Excellent
that.
point.
Yes, absolutely.
I noticed
I
I
have
haven't
signed a
anywhere
couple of
either.
things
Well,
Yes,
in the
you
last
have
4
had
years,
this.
so
I
I would like that authority.
Well, that must be.
That's the only thing I get to do, so if I just have to click it out,
you that.
they don't even need me.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Okay, pro tem. I'm gonna write that down so I won't forget. And
I think this is a fantastic idea.
great,
I only wish we talked about it years earlier.
me too. So yeah, the resolution will be at the next meeting for you guys too.
Great.
So, thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah.
Nice work, Andrea.
Thanks.
Oh, right. What signs?
Oh, can we docu-sign these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Click, click. We'll just pass the computer.
Unfortunately, the auditors still are like checks,
I know.
no stamp. No, I have to hard sign checks.
Oh, good. My job's still secure. All right.
Study session topics.
Study session topics for future. We got something.
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to bring up. This is brought up to me by a resident in the neighborhoods. When all that construction was going on with ADUs. There's no, and I talked with Lilith about this, there's no limiting, like on Thanksgiving, on the major holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas and New Year's. A contractor can come into the neighborhood, because I got a call at 7:30 in the morning on Thanksgiving from a person who they were building on their ADUs. Contractors came in at 7 o'clock on Thanksgiving. And there's nothing to prevent them from that. And I think that reasonably that she said the city council can make that resolution. And so I think somehow we need to protect those 3 holidays at least. They can, not that they can't work that day, but they have to start later on that day. And I'm not sure what would be a fair time, but 7 o'clock in the morning on Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving is too early. I think it'd be a fair thing to consider that and change that. So,
Worth a discussion.
Sure is.
yeah.
9 o'clock.
I would like
And then
to,
what? Yeah, because that discussion might get broader than just those 3 holidays. So,
I guess, well,
that, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
let's
good.
bring it up for discussion.
I guess I would just those seem to be the major ones, so I would just, yeah. Well, yeah,
Discussion.
I mean, I gotta give these contractors some breaks, but I'm just thinking, major holidays, that should be somewhat protected, so, yeah, I guess that can come up in a discussion, but that would be my intent, would be those three.
So that would be amending section 9.33 public disturbance noise regulations.
Yeah, and have to be, we have to have some type of enforcement so that there's consequences for breaking, so.
I have two things.
Yeah.
I would like to revisit or put on the study session, animal control. I think we need them back.
They're doing a
They're-
presentation.
Yeah.
Oh,
on
they
March
are.
26th.
Oh, good, because I see too much with the big
March.
dogs. And I've seen them attack other dogs and other people. My daughter's been attacked. So I'm concerned, we let it go, but I think it needs to come back.
Is it because there's a lot of off leash on that part of that, of the park?
They're supposed to be on a leash.
I know, but I see whenever I play pickleball, there's always, nobody,
No, they
is that an
don't.
issue? I mean, it seems to be an issue, right?
I think it's an issue. I sit there
Particularly
and watch it because people are at Osborne all the time.
where you're at.
And if you walk around Osborne now, looks like there's some elephants out there leaving stuff.
Yeah,
And I think it's the Parks Department gets stuck with it.
They do.
And kids are over there playing in leaves and I want to run over and go, get out of those leaves.
Yeah.
But I just, and my other thing is, Jason's not here to push this. And he pushed it, I think, at a lot of meetings, the wildfire. And I know that Ross Frank, when they were here and we had that big meeting, had several little things that the city could do. And I've lost that list and I've asked him if he would redo that list for me. And I think that I feel like we're just sitting back and letting other, entities meet on it or do whatever. And I think we need to get after it.
Could you be more specific?
Sure.
Okay.
How long do you want me to talk?
I just want to know what you feel that the council or staff should be doing that we're not doing.
Okay, well, if there was a fire that came down into town, where do we go?
Emergency management will tell us where to go.
And so we just sit in our house and wait for a phone call or something?
You wait for direction from emergency management.
I don't think that's good enough.
They send out geolocated text messages to everybody. That's part of the emergency service program.
And
they
so I
already have
get a
an
text message and now what do I do? It says to get in your car and drive out of town. And we've got the place flooded with tourists and people trying to get down from up on the hill. And so I feel like a sitting duck.
Well, they would have people at the places to direct traffic and to get them out. I mean, they've got systems in place that do that. That's what emergency management and it depends on where it's coming from and everything. So that's why they don't give you one size fits all. It'll be determined by what that incident is. But they've got, it'll be the sheriffs and the state patrol and the fire district, and they'll all be engaged in our public works gets engaged with.
Everybody's trying to get in and everybody's trying to get out.
Well, they're gonna be directing it.
And I have discussed the things that Commissioner Frank brought up with Tom Walkholder, our Public Works Director, and I'm sorry he's not here today. He's with his child at an open house. Barricades for evacuation, our Public Works guys know barricades. We put up a multitude of events. Our Public Works guys know barricades. He did talk about something with our water distribution. We can control our water through SCADA remotely from a laptop. I can't remember everything else that he talked about, but I did ask Tom immediately after that workshop to review the recording and to take what Commissioner Frank said seriously and to evaluate our readiness. And we can definitely add this to a council item, but I will say this, city staff, we are not, this current city staff who occupies City Hall and Public Works, we are not experts in emergency management and evacuation. We are not experts in fire control. We don't have that expertise. The expertise lies with our contracted emergency management providers, Chelan County Emergency Management, Chelan County Sheriff's Office, and Chelan County Fire District 3. So if we were a full service municipality, then we would have all that stuff in-house and those would be our staff. We just happen to have a municipality where we have contracted services for those things. So I don't know what more you expect of staff or yourselves to do.
I guess what I'd like to have happen, following up on that, is whatever, since Commissioner Frank has some reliable experience, that if we could have those items and what we've done to address those, I think that would be good.
We can easily do that.
Okay.
He ended that meeting with on the nose to the city saying, it was really kind of a damn, like, you haven't done your part.
Exactly.
Shame on you. And so this is the first I've heard of any action you've taken.
Well,
So if you took that seriously and you've done something about it, I'd like to learn more about what it was.
and some of that was already done. He said, shame on you for things that
We're done.
had been done. So you gotta understand, he was just speaking from his standpoint. But some of what he pointed the finger at was how few of our folks have done the audit for their houses.
Yeah.
Right.
One of them.
But then again, we don't do those audits. It's Chelan Fire District 3 does them. I mean, we can encourage more residents to do them.
I feel
But
like the
it's
propane
really,
tanks next to the businesses. It's the business, not the city's responsibility, right?
True. And we do have, KR Communications manager is working on a new section of our website for wildfire preparedness.
That's nice, yeah.
Calling it Firewise, we're doing another one for Bearwise. So we're gonna be the wisest city you've ever seen. Just give us some time to get there.
Are we making enough room between houses and ADUs and whatever, excuse me, cats, is being built?
Well, new development is required to abide by our wildfire urban interface code. So using fire hardened materials that don't easily combust from structure to structure. There's an example, we discussed this recently on West Street. There was a house that burnt to the ground. There was an older house that you can see visible damage, might have been fixed by now, but while I went by, you can see physical
it's
damage
still there.
from the heat, from the adjacent structure fire. The house on the other side, which was even closer, I think some windows blew out, but I don't think there's any structural damage to that house because it was built with the WUI code.
yeah,
I don't know, I'm someone who had my house burned down in 1996.
right. And that was before we called.
Experience.
Yeah, right. That was.
And I
before that.
worry, and I know a lot of people worry about snow load. And they worry about that and the house next to them catching on fire, the propane things that are outside too close to their house. And I feel like we are, we need to have more space between houses. I don't think 5 feet here and 5 feet there is enough. Especially if there's part of the code where you can put something in that 5 feet on your own side. I can't remember what they were, flagpole, playhouse for kids or something like that. I don't know. I think we have to, have you guys all like drove around and checked every, yourself and, or maybe Lilith and, Maggie to see what, the plans that you can have, what that looks like in a lot of cases.
I guess I not understand the
Well,
question.
we can't go and look at what was built in the past based on the regulations.
Well, I know in the past, but
But current buildings that are being constructed are inspected by the building inspectors during construction to ensure that they are compliant with the distances required by the code. So new stuff is being consistently looked at and measured in all aspects of the entire development area.
Right.
I had one more thing for future meetings. I know we're running out of time,
Yeah.
but I wanted to quickly jump on what Zeke said about sound. And I know that the Adventure Park is, wants to change some of their regulations. And I also know that, there are like 200 letters that came in. I read most of them. Most of them were not in favor. But what I want to mention for the council is, should we talk about that it says that there is nuisance noise and there is decibel noise in our codes, and that apparently, as I understand it, we care about decibel noise, not nuisance noise. So like this is my understanding, maybe I'm wrong, but when when Lilith takes a look at things, she'll be measuring decibels, not nuisance. And I wonder if that's correct in the case of the such an unpopular feature in town, like the adventure park. I was walking on Wheeler Road where I walk a lot. I don't know if you know where that is. It's off Ski Hill, like toward the end. And I heard, and I thought, oh, there's some kids playing or something. And then I kept hearing it here. I mean, it was the hill. And I was walking in this peaceful, country road, listening to these yells. And that was pretty far away. So for the people that wrote, many of them, dozens and dozens, and said, it's bothering me. Do we care about that? Or are we just going to measure decibels? So I think that's another important thing to think about, as we think about the sound of building or whatever.
I know, I hear the fest hall from my house a lot of times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear downtown music playing too.
And swim meets in the
That's what
summer.
me-
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, how much is okay. And
yeah, right.
I just
right.
think it's worth thinking about.
Different things are. All right, well, we got time for a break and then we'll be back here for our regular meeting at 7.
Mayor, maybe recall when
Lona disappeared.
I think
she
she went
went
home.
home, she'll be
Oh,
walking.
is she?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Call the meeting to order for Leavenworth City Council for February 27th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sharon?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call.
Sharon Waters.
Ann Hesper.
Zeke Reister.
Kane Thayer.
Travis McMaster?
And soon we will have, I think, Rona, but our first item this is new for us, but we're going to excuse Clint. Ask for an excusal for his wife had a treatment and it's with her. So I would take a motion to excuse Clint from the meeting tonight.
So
Second.
Moved by Ann, seconded by Sharon. All those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. We'll move on then. The consent agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve it.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Quick questions, I'm sure. The dump, it's on page 2 at the very second from the bottom.
Is this in the claims?
It's in the accounts payable.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, so dump fees, that's garbage, right?
Yep.
And we pay that to the Chelan County Treasurer?
Yeah, it's the Dryden Transfer Station. That's where we collect all of the commercial and multifamily garbage, and that's where we drop it off at.
Okay. That's where you drop the money off.
That's where we drop the garbage. off.
Garbage off.
The money itself goes to Chelan County Treasurer.
So where are you dumping the garbage?
At the Dryden Transfer.
Oh, I thought you
Station.
were saying, okay, all right, and the other question. I don't think they care for
Yeah, it's a
that,
big number, huh?
yeah.
Every day, every
every
month.
month.
Other question appears on page 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the bottom, Gran Osborne.
Mhm.
Zeltstrasse drainage to Wenatchee River, what was that? I must have missed it.
Yeah, that's a stormwater project, reconstructing the outfall to the Wenatchee River. And so that was, I believe, Chantel, is this a pass-through cost?
This
No,
wasn't.
no, this one is not passed through.
Yeah,
This is the property behind Gainer, right? It's between
Yep.
Gainer and
Yeah.
another property.
Yep.
And there was overflow issues and the city wanted to take care.
Well, we were on the hook because our third-party engineer, when they were designing the Hampton Inn Suites, they missed something. And so that wasn't built to accommodate the storm flow. So we took ownership of that and we partnered with the Widener property to acquire from Riverbend homeowners a section of land to run a new outfall down to the Wenatchee River. So
Okay,
we were party of that because our consulting engineer dropped the ball or
Didn't do it.
okay, thank you.
All right, is that it?
For me, yeah.
Yep. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Shane moves,
Second.
Zeke second. All those in favor, let me see your hand. It passes unanimously. Now, comments from the public on items not on the agenda. I think
We have-
got public out here. So,
we have one web attendee, Jim Drake. Jim, if you want to speak, raise your hand, please.
nope. Right. Looks like we might have a couple of high school students. Yeah, yeah. You want to stand and introduce yourself? Tell us why you're here.
I'm from Cascade High School. We're just here to, just watch how you guys run the public meetings.
Good.
My name is Natalie Sanchez, nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
You're in the same class together?
Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
Come up and I got a pin for you, so.
Is this still CWCW or something else?
You bet. They don't have projects anymore.
I know, but I'm going to college.
Oh,
Okay.
all right. We got no comments from the public, so we'll go on to presentations and we got Randy Lake first up. Randy?
How are you tonight?
Good.
Good, how are you, Randy? Good.
So, pretty average for January. City contract hours were 869 hours plus 26 hours of foot patrol. So pretty good start for the new year for that. Calls for service. If anybody has any specific questions, instead of me running through all of them, they look pretty normal to me. No
Randy,
question. Yes.
yeah, it almost seems that, you know, when we have this, maybe we want more because we can read this. So, you know, how's the city doing? How are things downtown? Are there shoplifters or?
Yeah, it looked like there was 3 shoplifters arrested.
What happens to them then when they're arrested?
Usually just cited and released.
Okay,
The jail is, the jail doesn't take people very often. There's mandatory arrests for DUI, which there was one in the city limits last year or last month. Domestic violence, and some felonies. But the jail has a hard time with a large percentage of people that end up going in are going through withdrawals. And when they're going through withdrawals, they have to be kept separate from other ones because of the process that they go through of withdrawal from the vomiting and other fluids. They can't be in the same room as someone else for several days. So we're usually on some type of booking restriction. Even if the person has warrants, they're usually pretty limited. DOC holds a couple of beds. They actually go all the way down to a top 10 of wanted people for DOC. But other out of county warrants definitely aren't gonna, unless it's really bad and the person's really being a problem. We can sometimes speak with the supervisor on duty and get somebody booked if they're being a real problem and really need it. But we try not to do that to them. It's nothing they created. It's just these days. So most people don't get booked.
That a good thing?
In my opinion,
Mhm.
no. But I don't necessarily agree with the way schools handle discipline either, but I'm old school.
Is there just not enough room?
For the jail, they have to have so many individual cells for the people, like I said, going through the withdrawals, that does take up a lot of room. They aren't at capacity. I think the email the other day said they have a capacity of about 256. They run about 100 less than that, up to around 150 to 180, and that puts them at the current capacity for the needs that they have to meet for the individual people.
Okay, thank you.
Other
Questions?
than that, if nobody else has any other questions on any of the actual calls, vehicle prowls are starting to pick up a little bit. That's more probably going to come out next month because I think they've been this last week or two. And then of course it wasn't anything in the city of Leavenworth, but the unfortunate snowmobile accident last week. But that was up in the mountains.
Randy, that wasn't a collision, that was a snowmobile going off the trail, right?
Correct. It was a 2-up. I consider her young. She's much younger than I am, and her 14-year-old daughter on the same snowmobile, and had left the trail and went under a tree that was laying parallel, and had a lot of blunt force trauma to the chest and compound fractures to the leg, and unfortunately didn't make it.
Any other questions? All right. Well, you just make sure it doesn't pick up too much, Randy.
I leave Friday for my trip to McCall, so.
Oh, yeah. Enjoy it.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Great. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You bet. And Mike, ready?
All right, for us, generally getting ready for wildland season, it's that time of year. We're in the process of getting ready to do our hiring, for the fuel reduction crew that we talked about the last couple of meetings. The last planned career position, that we've already done all the process for last year, that person will start March 1st. That is Cody Calhoun. He's been a volunteer with us, for about 6 years. He also worked as a seasonal firefighter here last summer, so he's pretty familiar with the department and the area and everything. Also, we had a firefighter, Mike Powell. He got promoted to volunteer lieutenant. He's been with us since 2012. Super active volunteer, leader in the department. So it's kind of natural to promote him up to lieutenant. We're trying to kind of bolster the line supervisors to have more kind of intermediate management. For training, we're wrapping up our driver training. There's just a few things left to do. They have to do the new students have to do a rodeo and driver test to complete the process to becoming fully certified to drive, obviously, the CDL rigs. And then several of the career members are going to have training coming up. Most of it's focused on leadership and instruction. I am sending one of our junior fire inspectors. He's going to take a course on commercial hoods, kind of start this progression through prevention. We responded, this is about a week ago. At that point, we had responded to 99 calls. So far in 2024, that's down a little bit from 112 last year. It's not really that significant. It's just ebb and flow. We did respond to a commercial fire on Wood Pass on the 27th of January. We sent up a command officer, a tender, and an engine. And we also went to Wenatchee with ladder 31 to a second alarm commercial fire on Wenatchee Ave on the 8th of February. And then Corporal Lake mentioned the snowmobile rescue.
I mean, he kind of gave you the lowdown on what happened. We did kind of pull out all the stops. We did call in two helicopters. Cascade Medical played a big role. We were able to get our snowmobiles deployed, throw on the medics from Cascade. They got to the patient, they left the trailhead for the patient within about 40 minutes, which coming from Station 31, deploying snowmobiles, you know, we're trying to hurry. It did take them they were 18 miles in the backcountry. It took them, it took them about, half an hour to get there, pulling a toboggan, all the gear, 2 people. So they did get there, they did attempt, resuscitation efforts. Along with, they took flight nurses with them from the helicopter, they couldn't land nearby. So we were able to load up some flight nurses and get them up there as well. But like Corporal Lake was saying, I believe she was 51-year-old female, they ended up pronouncing her there on scene. We were able to, the daughter her injuries were not severe. We were able to, transport her down in our SAR unit. And, everything was over and done with. I think we got called at 2 p.m. and at 6 p.m. the last of our rigs were leaving the trailhead. So it did not have the outcome we wanted, but everything went really well, and we feel like we did everything that we possibly could have. Any questions?
Can you tell us a little bit about the new commissioner?
I can't tell you too much other than her name is Mahal Martin, and I've met her. I can just say she's an awesome person to talk to, but I don't have too much background information. I'm sure next month I'll actually have a bio probably for you on her.
Okay, thanks.
So she seemed pretty sharp and very, very nice person to deal with. So so far, so good.
Mike, I wanted to ask you about the amount of false alarms. Is that pretty typical? Like it's almost 20% every month, or is that about, I mean, what constitutes it? That people are calling and nothing's happening, or?
False alarm is almost always going to be commercial, like a commercial fire alarm, or it could be a residential fire alarm as well. 20% is probably a little high, but I think it's, the data, it's pretty short data point to know for sure. But that would also coincide with the giant freeze we had, because we had a ton of sprinkler systems and things like that. And I'm thinking that's where that might get switched. If we do something, it gets switched into good intent. Like we had some buildings that we did some salvage, trying to get water out, shut down systems. That'll get put over into good intent. But if we just go and it's like, oh, if it was a false alarm, or it got set off because this started flowing or whatever, then it's just a false alarm.
Okay.
These are cumulative numbers for the year?
Correct.
Yeah, January and February.
Yes, that's fine.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks, Mike. All right, we'll move on to our action items. And the first one is Pine Street Type for water main replacement acceptance. Andy.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight you're being asked to consider accepting the Pine Street Titus Deferred Water Main Small Works Project. And so for those of you that were not on the council previously, I have a little bit of background to run through with you. On September 12th, our city crew identified an irreparable water leak on Pine Street, and we were able to mobilize on this pretty quickly. On October 2nd, Mayor Flory declared an emergency. On October 3rd, our consultant had already designed and advertised the project to contractors. And we had a bid opening on October 16th, and ultimately, construction began on November 3rd. And physical completion was reached on November 30th. So we were able to, between the design engineer and the contractor, jump on this and get this repaired before winter and actually paved out, which has been pretty awesome. So as you'll see in your packet, for the funding side of this, we were awarded $400,000 from the Public Works Board, which is part of the Department of Commerce. They awarded us $60,000 in grant funding and $340,000 in a low interest loan. So that, totaling $400,000. The HCON was our contractor. They were awarded a contract in the total of $339,000 $3,388. And ultimately, our final contract total came in at $358,363.78. So the total cost increase between our original contract award and the final contract amount was $18,975.50. And ultimately, that was due to unit bid overruns for crush surfacing, rock excavation and asphalt. So when they got in there and actually excavated the roadway, we knew that there was going to be some rock X and large rock, but there ended up being more than we even anticipated, especially because we replaced this in the same trench that our existing water main was in. And so what we found is they backfilled with boulders. So rock X is anything over 1 cubic yard. And we had a decent amount of rock X, even though we were replacing it in the same location. So that coupled with just due to the time of year and the soils we have in that area, we had really wet soils. And so they couldn't reuse native and had to bring in import in order to backfill.
Right. Entertain a motion to accept this project.
Leavenworth City Council moves to accept the Pine Street Titus defer water main replacement small works project and authorize the mayor to execute the associated final contract voucher certificate.
Second.
Moved by Zeke, seconded by Ann. Any other questions? All those in favor, let me see your hand.
Hold his hands up.
Just gotta get that.
Not up?
Waving
Okay,
in the dark.
okay. waving in the dark. I don't know if that's your hand or not, but okay,
It is.
we'll count it. It passes unanimously. All right, our next item is also Andy, on-call utility repair bid award.
Yeah, so ultimately, this project stemmed from us attempting to be proactive and putting together a contract before I could make a really bad pun here, but before all of our spring water leaks spring.
Springs.
Yeah, so ultimately, throughout our water, sewer, and stormwater system, we have utilities that are deeper than our city staff can safely excavate with the trench safety equipment we have at this time. And so the purpose of this on-call utility repair contract is just to have another tool in our tool belt. So when when one of these utility repairs pops up, we have this contract in place where we can bring someone in to replace or repair, say a water main that's buried 12 feet deep, which actually exists. That's part of our system. Right now, we are also concurrently procuring updated trench safety equipment so that we can safely excavate utilities at this depth. But in the meantime, we want to have this on-call utility repair contract set up, ready to go, so we don't have to issue an emergency declaration if something comes up that we can't address safely. As part of this contract, it's actually set up really similar to the on-call snow removal contract we had, which you've seen previously. So the contractor is required to respond within 24 hours. There's separate per hour bid items for all of the different labor and equipment types that we would expect on a typical repair. And so again, the goal here is just to have another tool in the tool belt if we need when something happens. So the engineer's estimate for this was around $50,000. So with that, we sent it to 6 contractors on the small works roster. We got 4 bids back. They range from around $35,000 to $85,000. And KRCI LLC was the lowest responsive bidder with a bid total of $35,777.50. So after reviewing the bid tabs, staff recommends awarding to KRCI.
I have a question. How long before the city staff were able to do this work?
Yeah.
Without?
We'd have to buy new equipment.
But that's the goal, right? We're working
I'm
towards
sorry.
that.
Like how long until we have trench safety equipment?
Yes,
Is that tracking? I don't know at this time. I don't know what the procurement time looks like.
Okay.
But I know our public works field supervisor and Tom together are exploring that. Tom, I don't know if you have a time for procurement.
I don't have a timeline established at this point, but it is part of Rick Emmons, our Public Works Field Supervisor. It's part of his work plan for this year is to procure that.
And because it's set up as an hourly contract, if we don't use it, we don't pay anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Andy, what are we dealing with as far as depth that's out of our reach, like potentially?
Yeah, so for example, the water main on Icicle Road, which we have had leaks on before, is 12 feet deep.
Okay.
I don't know our sewer depths off the top of my head, but it's not uncommon for those to be quite deep as well, just so that we can gravity flow. But
Okay,
yeah, I
just
know
wondering.
that one water main, for example, is something we have had to repair. It's very deep. So in order to safely do so, we need to, excavate a very large bench back hole, and it just becomes a much larger process.
Right.
And also, requires shoring in order for us to keep it tighter and keep the road open, which right now, we don't have updated like safety equipment for those kinds of repairs.
Thanks.
Andy, I have one more question. Do you know how much would like one repair cost? Like,
Yeah, good question. So we just had a water main repair that we ended up needing to use a contractor for on, oh my gosh, what's the street? Just one up from.
Benton Street.
On Benton over, I think it was early January. It was a situation where either our public works crew was all sick.
Right.
And those that were actually in, were already home for the day because they had been in plowing over the night. And so we ended up calling in a contractor to repair a pretty substantial water main leak up there, and it cost around $4,000.
okay, so we're looking at probably like 10 repairs with this bid if we.
Yeah,
if
and
we use
also
it.
the way it's set up, again, it just has the per hour bid items broken out. I think it's
Okay.
like 30 bid items or something in there. Accurately pay them for their work.
Cool, thank you.
All right, entertain a motion.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to accept the construction bid and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with KRCI LLC for 2024 on-call utility repair in the amount of $35,777.50.
Second.
Moved by Ann, seconded by Sharon. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, let me see your hand. Okay, looks like it's unanimous.
Thank you.
And item 10 is also A and D.
Sorry, are you sick of me yet?
Yeah, I know.
So the last item I have for you is the 2024 street maintenance project. This is a professional services agreement with our Dura Group Incorporated. If you remember on January 9th at your council meeting, I brought the fuel tax grant agreement with the Transportation Improvement Board for the 2024 street maintenance project. That was a project totaling $100,000. 90,000 of that is from TIB as part of their small city street maintenance program. And then the other 10,000 is city funded via the streets fund. So with this project, because of the TIB fund, like the grant that it's a part of, we need to spend this money this year. And also as part of that, they are pushing us to bid it early so that we get competitive prices. And so ultimately, right now, between Tom and I, we don't have the capacity to put out bid docs for this project and then also oversee construction. And so this is a professional services agreement to bring in our Dura to assist in the design and then oversee and manage the construction of this project. The one caveat with this, though, is that TIB won't fund consultants as part of this because it's part of their small city maintenance program. So we are proposing that the PSA gets funded via the streets fund. That way we can actually execute this project this year and spend the 90,000 that TIB gave us. So we did pull statements of qualification from the roster and selected our Dura as the most qualified. That's who procured them. I did want to mention as well, so not only did Tom and I not have the capacity to put this out right now without impacting some of our other city projects that we've determined to be a high priority, but our on-call engineer that we have under contract currently also doesn't have the capacity to get this out on time. So, this is our next best option, trying to use all the resources you have to spend, all the money on all the projects we have going on right now.
Hey, I would entertain a motion.
Leavenworth City Council moves to approve and authorizes the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with Ardura Group Incorporated for the 2024 street maintenance project with a not to exceed amount of $32,469.
Second.
Moved by Shane, seconded by Ann. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, let me see your hands.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. And now you're done. Professional services agreement with Architects. So
Thank you, Mayor, Council. 2 meetings ago, a month or so ago, Council approved a professional services agreement with ARC Consultants Architects for the fatal flaws analysis phase 2. Phase 1 is a fatal flaws analysis. Phase 2 is cost estimates for the project, so we can apply for a grant with a deadline of August 5th. Phases 3 and 4 will be later.
April 5th.
April 5th. What did I say?
August.
I'm sorry, April 5th.
Yeah.
I apologize. One of those A
months.
I did not know what it was going to cost, and we did not have their budget when I asked you to approve that purchase, that professional services agreement. I estimated that it would cost them more than $50,000 to get us through those first 2 phases, and I was wrong. We finally got the estimates back, and it's $82,000, and this is after I pulled out survey and directly contracted with survey and directly contracted with environmental, because we already had someone who'd been doing work on environmental on that project. So I'm humbly asking you to increase the not to exceed amount to the $81,790 so that we can get through these 2 phases and apply for this $2 million grant.
$2 million grant comes from,
It's a commerce grant, a library construction improvement
that's
program grant.
connect with the library.
Correct.
They're applying for that.
We are applying for it because remember, they rent our building.
Okay,
So we'll be on the hook to build the building and they'll rent it back. But they also have funds to help towards this project if it does move forward.
okay.
And I'll give you an update about the status of the project when we get to updates.
I was wondering about the square footage.
Yeah.
If I read it correctly. Let me see where I wrote that down. So if the demo phase, excuse me, at Osborne is to move it from 25,000 to 12,000, is it 12,000 square
Yes.
feet? And at City Hall, the library here is 3,000 square feet, is that true?
That's right.
And so how many square feet will it be over there?
It'd be about 3,500 dedicated to the library, exclusive use to the library.
3,500. Library. Okay, my brain is working slowly than normal. Let me see. How many classrooms has it been established?
How many classrooms will be renovated? It won't look like classrooms anymore once it's done. It'll look like something other than classrooms.
It's still
But
space.
yeah, so there's of the 11,000, I know it says 12,000 or less. That was the threshold, but under which we need to get, so we wouldn't have to sprinkler the building. The current looks like it's about 11,000 square feet. 3,500 would go dedicated to the library, and the remainder would be either hallways, bathrooms, the kitchen, the existing gym, or flexible community spaces. So that's the administrative offices and classrooms across the hallway and the hallway itself. We won't need that hallway anymore. We can use that space.
And so how much is that all gonna cost?
We don't yet. That's what this is. This is what
You
helping
don't
us.
have a guess or?
We don't. This is what this is gonna do.
This is what
Tell us what it's gonna cost.
And I saw them out and working, when measuring things in climate ladders and what have you.
Yeah.
How close are they to,
I gave them a deadline of March 15th to come back with the fatal flaws analysis, and that's
Okay.
basically telling us whether or not there's anything that's a deal breaker. So if they find a source of mold and mildew and shows that there's no way we could remediate it and it's always going to be present, then that would be a deal breaker. One of the things that could have been a deal breaker is the geotechnical exploration. If they found unsuitable soils to support a new wall at the demolition point, then that could have killed the project.
And so they have not whispered a word.
I'm giving you an update in a minute.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I did get an email back today that the geotech exploration was favorable. We don't have the results yet from the other environmental testing.
Right.
Okay, I couldn't hear what you were
We
saying.
don't have they did last week do the testing for mold and mildew. I just don't have the results back yet.
And where are they testing?
They're testing, I wasn't there. They tested all throughout the building, including portions where it's going to be demolished. They got down into the utility corridors and confirmed that there is asbestos pipe that will need to be remediated as part of the demolition, whether it's partial or full demolition. And whether or not we rehabilitate the space, we'll have to abate that asbestos. And then I know they were testing in the old air ducts for mold and mildew.
Okay, and so the asbestos you're talking about now, is that different than the asbestos that they know?
We've always known,
wrapped up?
no, that's the same
Yeah.
asbestos. Yeah,
It's
we've
the
always,
same,
it
yeah.
is, yep. And they'd already previously done a hazardous materials report. So they didn't find any lead. They didn't find any, the only thing they found, the only contaminant of concern, the only thing that they found, but they didn't test for mold and mildew at that time, because when that hazardous materials report was done, it was based on a full demolition. And what they found was asbestos.
Have they tested up in the roof and everything where the birds have lived for 100 years?
They're testing it, the whole building.
It's a lot of local knowledge, Sharon.
I know, because
The building's not 100 years
I
old.
used to work in that building.
I know.
I know, and this is why we're doing this. The consultants were asking me, why are you even doing this? And I said, because I heard from the community that there was problems, and we want to make sure that if we're going to propose this project, that we're going to deliver a healthy and safe product.
Just out of curiosity, if they said it was healthy and whatever, and then you got into doing things and found out there were things they didn't find, what happens?
It would probably increase cost to remediate whatever needs to be remediated.
Oh, okay. They don't get in trouble. Okay, let me see if there's anything else here. It's
So
confusing.
Selby, the overall agreement for the $82,000 would cover all 4 phases.
Well, these quotes are just for phases 1 and 2.
Oh.
I had put all 4 phases in there when I brought the PSA, because I had no idea, and I didn't want to sell ourselves short. If they came back, if I asked for $50,000 and they came back with, oh, it's only gonna cost 25, I want to be able to keep going, which is why I put all 4 phases in the PSA. But if you look at the quote, it says specifically it's for phases 1 and 2.
Okay, so we just get the fatal flaws analysis and the library design out of it.
Correct.
But this will determine whether we go forward with the project.
Right, and gives us enough to.
We don't need
Get
3
the
or 4
grant.
now, but this is
Right,
the big one.
right,
This is
yeah.
the first
This
year.
gives us the information that we need to apply for the grant, and that grant would be what would definitely give us the
Drive
go.
Got it.
Selby, can you just quickly clarify what phase 3 and 4 is?
So phase 3 is
Oh,
designing the community
Oh.
space.
you know what? She just pointed it out.
Yeah.
And then phase 4 is designing if City Hall is going to move downstairs, how that would work.
Okay. Thank you.
The same company's doing both?
Yeah, all of it
Okay.
with their subs.
On J, on the exhibit A, it says, I'm just wondering what's happening with that cement parking lot that I see on the map. It says adequate parking on site or nearby, and the school has already said that we could use their parking lot, so.
The superintendent has indicated that it's likely. We don't have an agreement with the school.
Right. If this moves forward, we would get look at getting an agreement with them.
So if we got an agreement with them, will that cement parking lot come out?
Well, at least part of
Parking,
it.
some parking will have to go to that site.
Right.
It will have to go because of ADA requirements. There will have to be a small parking lot.
But it won't have to be that whole thing. We'll make it as small as we
Well, I
can.
mean, I know there's like indentions
Right.
that go in.
We're gonna be as
And
creative
that-
as we can to make you happy.
I hope so.
Nose and.
Yeah, I don't know if I can go for it.
Well, we don't know if we can make you happy, but.
Oh, you can. I can give you just a couple.
No. I would entertain a motion.
Any more questions, Sharon?
If we-
No, she made some feverish notes over here, so I was wondering.
No, I had these notes here, but it was really confusing because it seemed like I had to bebop all over. So the library is paying for some of this, but we're paying for it, right?
Yeah, the library will kick in when we get to that point.
What does kick in mean?
They will do interiors for their portion. So they'll turn it into an interior library, but we have to provide the
produce the
finished
shell.
shell. Yeah.
What does the shell mean? It's in the building.
The exterior.
Yeah.
The
We actually
exterior,
provide the building part for them and
Yeah.
they'll do all the
Okay,
interior.
interior stuff.
Their bookshelves.
Will Candy
And
Guys
their carpet
pictures
and
come
their-
down?
Huh?
Will Candy Guys, all their nice pictures around there disappear?
We don't know. Yes, probably.
That
Or
would be
Candy
great.
Dillhoff now,
Yes,
it's Candy
yeah,
Guy when she was a
right.
kid. They'll probably disappear.
They'll probably.
That would be up to the,
That would
it'll be
up to-
their space. They can decorate it however they choose.
Can they take pictures?
It'll be up to
of
the
them?
library, I
Take
mean.
pictures of
Oh,
them?
Yes, they can
Okay,
take pictures.
I'll talk to the
We can give
library.
them to the museum.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah, right.
So we're squishing all through this really fast because of a grant deadline that the library will miss.
Yeah.
Correct.
What's the grant for?
$2 million.
That's nice. And to go to this
We wanna make
project.
that
Go to
deadline.
this.
We want to make it.
Yeah, we want to make this right.
Okay, mid-March.
That's a big chunk.
It does require 50% match.
So, right.
So we know this is a minimum $3 billion project.
3 million.
Well, it would have to be for us to get
Minimum, I said 3. 50% match.
Okay, we're not gonna put
Budget.
sprinklers in. Is that a safety problem with?
that size.
No,
Okay,
yeah, under the building code, that's why we chose
Okay.
that size.
how many administrative offices that you've got listed here, administrative offices? On phase 3?
That's just a description of the
Of the
area.
space that's going to be reused.
You know where their offices were?
I mean, the school office
At
Yeah.
the school office.
So when you walk
and the
in,
teacher's workroom?
yeah, when you walk in, all that stuff
Are
to
you
the
going
right,
further down than that?
going one classroom deep. So when you look at the building, you look at the entrance,
Yeah.
and you see that first
Yeah.
bank of windows.
That's where it's.
You actually, there's a hole there right now because they just, or a flag anyway for a hole, because that's where they excavated to look at the soils.
Okay, and on the other side, how many classrooms?
That's it.
It's
It's straight
Well,
across.
Just the bathroom and no further?
no, it is a bathroom, then there's a classroom with a soft wall there that would be part of the community.
So
space.
there's only 2 classrooms, one on one side and one on the other. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not looking at the. Happy to walk with you. I'm happy to go into the building with you and point it out.
Okay,
Well, we're also retaining though the other side of the library, which is the kitchen.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That part,
Yeah.
we know, right. She was just wondering how far out it went
Yeah.
from there. Anything else?
probably a lot, but I don't know.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to approve and authorize the mayor to sign professional services agreement supplement number 1 with ARC Architects Incorporated for Osborne partial demolition and reuse into a library and community space with a not to exceed amount of $82,000.
Seconded.
Moved by Ann, seconded by Shane. Any
Can
other
I-
questions?
Yeah,
Okay,
I thought of one more.
okay.
Okay, the community support for the library came how?
Community support
Well,
for
I
the
mean-
library.
For relocating
Why
it?
are we putting a library in?
Oh, what's the rationale?
Yeah, it's because you need 4 more rooms for, staff?
So the genesis of this idea goes back a little over a year, when we did a space needs assessment for future needs for City Hall, the library, and the Public Works campus. And as I presented to you at your retreat in May, we had over $220 million of unbudgeted, unplanned want and need. That project was part of it, and then the community center at the Osborne School was another one. So the architects recommended, in addition to this building, to meet our future space needs, that would have cost between 12 and $15 million. It would include raising the roof of this portion of City Hall and expanding into Lions Park. And then a community center would cost about 10 to $15 million as well. So I pitched the idea of why don't we investigate the idea of doing a partial demolition of the library of the Osborne School, relocating the library there, also providing some community spaces, and then City Hall can move its operations downstairs and give us an extra 3,000 square feet of space to grow into. That was the pitch.
To grow into with what, rooms or?
People.
Yeah.
Like, we need more meeting rooms, we need more offices, we need more space.
And it saves us tens of millions of dollars.
It seemed like a win-win, and we floated it at couple of different engagement nights and got great responses. So
We met with the library was very enthusiastic about it, taking them to the space a couple of times.
Can you help me with this? Because this is what I'm struggling with. Property was bought for green space and recreation, pilot playgrounds for kids. That's what it was purchased for. And so that's what I'm struggling with.
My response to that is I wasn't there for those conversations. A previous administrator did a very large visioning session for that property with the community. And what came out of it was a community center.
A very large community center.
Yeah, and I think
it was mid-size. We had a larger one and a small one. And
But
they
larger
voted
than what
for
we're gonna end up with right now. We're actually demoing existing structure.
Right.
well, I don't know if because you had almost a third of it for affordable housing at one point. on there.
That was one of the ideas floated, and that didn't go anywhere. And but what the community voted the most for was that some community center type building and open space and park. So we're developing the parks. We're cutting back and looking at, again, the library / some community spaces there, but that would be mid-size. So it was all done as part of that community process. We just didn't get into the nitty-gritties of what all was going to be there. It was just general concepts. It was still at that 30,000 foot level.
And you do have somewhat of a community center as you have the gym is still intact.
The gym
Kitchen's
and a
still
couple of
intact.
classrooms.
Classrooms are still
Yeah.
intact.
Which the classrooms,
Please
I'm
don't
sure
call
will
that a
get
community center.
Well, I
That is
would
not
call
a
it a community
community
center.
center.
community spaces, whatever you want to,
That would be better.
community spaces, classrooms, gym. And I'm sure the library will use those
They will.
spaces as well. So
They will. They really like the idea of being close to a playground, close to the courts. They like the idea of being close to the homeschool classrooms at HomeLink. They like the idea of being closer to the schools themselves. They like the idea of not having to fight visitors for parking. They like all of those ideas. There are a lot of benefits to this idea.
Okay, thanks.
any other questions?
I guess
All
I
those in
have a
favor?
comment.
Oh, yeah, Rhonda?
Sorry. I have a comment about this. My mom was a librarian, and I like the idea of putting the library more in the neighborhood rather than Highway 2. So, I think that's nice. My main concern is parking. And I hope that there's enough parking, especially if that park becomes popular in various ways. But anyway, I kind of like this idea, and I agree that the city, after I got the tour of the building and saw how you all were in your offices, wow, you need more room. It's like sardines. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think the park can be solved without putting it on the property.
We'll try.
We have a big wide sidewalk and we don't need a lot of that, but that can go. The
Yeah.
city owns that stuff on.
We can
all
keep it on the
sides.
perimeter as much as possible, and with, if we can get that agreement with the district office. All right, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor, let me see your hands. Seen all but one. Opposed?
Surprise.
Surprise.
Can't let go of that yet.
Yeah.
And especially when if there's not gonna be a parking lot on prime recreational
Yeah.
property, I'm not in favor.
EDA issue.
So 5-1.
That can be solved.
Yeah.
They don't need a parking lot there to solve the ADA issue.
Next item is right-of-way use agreement, and that's Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Flory. Council members, Mayor Flory, good evening. I appreciate the flexibility in allowing me to present remotely. I had an engagement at my son's school this evening. Nonetheless, here we go. City council members, you're being asked to consider approving this right-of-way use agreement between the city and 3 Eves LLC. The reason for this right-of-way use agreement is that the 3 Eves LLC is improving a property at 833 Front Street. And these improvements include a new balcony with a new heat pump. And there are existing features that already overhang the city's right-of-way in the alley. And these include the roof overhang, existing balconies, there's planter boxes, awning, and such. And so this due to the community development receiving a request to enhance this structure and project additional features over the city's right-of-way. We're taking this opportunity to enter into this right-of-way use agreement. And the intent of the right-of-way use agreement is to basically set expectations between both parties, the city and the property owner, and primarily require the property owner to have adequate liability insurance and ensure that they are maintaining their structures that overhang the city right-of-way. The proposed agreement is a similar agreement the city council approved in 2022 on another structure that was on Front Street. And it has similar terms. So the term of this agreement is 25 years from the effective date, and it will automatically renew for 3 5-year periods. And then after that, that's subject to negotiation by both parties. And with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Questions?
Is this the alley between the buildings?
Yeah. Behind Front Street.
That's correct. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Do we charge a fee for this right-of-way use agreement?
This one does not require a fee, no.
We require it if it's using the physical below, but we haven't required it for any of the overhangs that we've done. That would be different.
Basically air rights.
Yeah. Air rights.
Yeah, we don't have any air rights on the books.
So just so I understand this, these are roofs and balcony bump outs on the backside of buildings. And
that's correct.
We were collecting the garbage back there because, and it won't interfere with anything to do with that because the waste management doesn't have a vehicle that can go through there. Is that why?
Well, our garbage trucks go through there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. We collect solid waste and cardboard in the alleyways, and these improvements are going to be high enough where they will not interfere with our operations.
Okay.
Somewhere in here.
Okay.
Aren't air rights assumed?
Well, we're basically giving them, that's why we're doing this. I mean, they are our rights. They are our air rights.
Okay.
So this is allowing them to have stuff in our
In our
air
space.
rights. Air rights.
Tom, do you know how high off the ground, just out of curiosity, this balcony is going to be?
I believe it's approximately 14 feet, and there's existing balconies that are at that same height as well.
Here's a picture of it.
What's the use for the balcony? I mean, will people, is it just a fake balcony?
It's a
or
fake balcony to screen
Okay.
the unit.
Nobody has a
The
desire.
heat pump, yeah, it's to screen the heat pump unit.
I'd entertain a motion. The Leavenworth City Council moves to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a right-of-way use permit to extend a new heat pump and balcony structure over the city's alley right-of-way at 833 Front Street.
Seconded.
Moved by Zeke, seconded by Shane. Any other questions? All those in favor, let me see your hands. Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
All right, council report, Sharon.
On February 14th, I was at the Women's Exchange meeting and they always have a speaker. And so two people came from the National Alliance on Mental Health, referred to as NAMI. It is a family support group, which is peer-led. It is for any adult with a loved one who has experienced symptoms of mental health condition. The aim is to gain insight from the challenges and successes of others facing similar experiences. NAMI support groups are unique because they follow a structured model, ensuring everyone has an opportunity to be heard and to get what they need. I also attended the Design Review Board meeting and attended Fire District 3 Commissioner meeting, which Mike Smith had a great report. And I went to the Chelan County Fire District meeting. February 2nd, Zeke and I met with Lilith to discuss code amendments. I'll hand that report to Zeke if he wants to take it. February 22nd, the Osborne Play Equipment Committee met, and you heard all that information in the study session. I hope you're excited after hearing that, as excited after hearing that information as we who put it together are excited to have it and to bestow it on the community. On February 26th, yesterday, I went to the Chelan Douglas Health Department meeting. Main items on the docket were the Board of Health venue is changing. We're going to move to the Senior Aging and Adult Care Campus on 9th Street in East Wenatchee. They have the technology space and have verified that the room will be available to the board for all scheduled meetings for 2024. There is no fee to use the facility. Dr. Wallace, who is our health biggie, reported that pertussis alias whooping cough is a big concern in children right now, especially those in the 1 to 6 week old category. There's also an increase in RSV, COVID, and influenza in our area. The health district building is going to undergo a massive remodel. I can't remember what year it was built, but it was, if it was before 1950 or in the 50s. And so a lot of the buildings in Wenatchee for different projects in East Wenatchee have been remodeled, and the health department really hasn't been at all. And it's not falling apart, but it's not in really good shape. So they're gonna do the remodel. Let's see. And on March 1st, our Chelan Douglas Health District Administrator Luke Davies will be stepping down. He's moving on to other things. He's been here just under 3 years. It was a mess when he came here. And he's worked very, very hard under a lot of not good conditions to pull the health district back together. And he did that. He will be really missed by everybody. Everybody's sad to see him go, but it's something he needs to do. It was voted last night that Dr. Kristen Hosey, who is currently the deputy director, will fill that spot until a new administrator has been hired. And is there anything else? Oh, today I attended the Downtown Steering Committee. I'll let Zeke do that report. Travis was also in the audience. And I just wanted to note that we are averaging.
I gotta get upstream.
We're averaging 23 walkers each day. at the Fest Hall on Monday through Thursday, and will continue to walk until the outside weather is friendlier. Also, all are welcome to help with the backpacking every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. at the United Methodist Church.
Right, thank you, Sharon. Ann?
I attended the Link Transit Board meeting last week, and one of the reports that the board was provided is a summary of what's called Vision 2020, which was a tax increase that was approved by a vote in 2019. And we got a summary of what has been implemented since that came into play in 2020 and what still remains. As you know, there have been some implementation bumps in the road, so to speak, because it's been really hard to expand route services because there's been an operator shortage, particularly during the COVID years. But that is kind of in the rearview mirror, so to speak, these days. They have a lot of new operators and some things specific to Leavenworth that we can look forward to is estimated about April 2024, the Leavenworth DART service is going to be expanding its hours. It will be operating during the weekdays from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on the weekends from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is a really cool additional service that you can call and get a ride through their DART service if your need does not link up with the regular bus service. Everybody loves the Leavenworth shuttle, and with some additional evaluation needed, the goal right now is to restore the Leavenworth shuttle by July of this year, which is awesome. So we will not just have to rely on the 22 running through the highway. We'll actually have our own shuttle service back. So my hope is that through the additional evaluation services that they do over the next coming months, that they will be able to establish that for us again this summer. And then looking ahead into right now, it's projected April 2026. We're actually going to be extending the regular Route 2022 weekday trip service all the way until 10:15 p.m. And the long-term goal is to extend all the way till about midnight, 1 a.m. on a lot of the main routes like Wenatchee to Leavenworth, Wenatchee to Chelan, Manson, those sorts of things, so that people have more commute opportunities.
Can they do that and run free?
So far, it's going to be remaining free.
Have they got the ridership? Is like the count's going up?
Yep, our ridership continues to go up every month, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
We're getting into the million ridership a year now, which is great.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
The new express line is great.
Yeah.
My son takes it every morning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it stops.
in the evening,
That doesn't have as
Oh,
many stops.
yeah,
It's a lot
really.
faster,
Yeah.
which is super convenient.
Yeah, it's great.
Yep. And that's all I've got.
Great. Zeke?
Shortly after our last council meeting, I can't think of the exact date, I gave testimony in favor of Senate Bill 5334 and the House of Representatives Housing Committee via Zoom. I attended the Downtown Steering Committee today. We had various things we talked about. Basically, we reviewed our draft committee bylaws, considering adding 2 members. We're still having, that's been tabled. We're still going to discuss that. And we also discussed regarding virtual meetings. It pretty much was a consensus that we would keep our virtual meetings open so that better access, and it would just allow us more flexibility. And basically, probably Shannon gave a great parking review, which what I remembered out of that one was that January's parking income was 126,000 compared to, as in December, parking brought in 300,000. She's also parking is introducing the kiosk. I think she's got 4 out of 6 up, so it's moving along really well. And that's the end of my report.
Great, thanks, Zeke. Shane?
Last couple of weeks were pretty quiet for me. I don't have anything to report.
All right. Travis?
I think Rona's up.
Oh,
Rona.
I know, I always go to the
Oh,
Zoom last.
Don't wanna jump in?
You're in line here.
Okay, like Shane, the committees that were on our work meeting, but I attend a couple that I'm as a citizen, and one was a steering committee today. Heard two reports of that, and they did a good job. There's a lot of discussion, majority of the time about trying to organize, add two more, or trying to be more community inclusive and make sure that everybody's getting reached in the community, which is great. Parking advisory committee last week. Like I said, Shannon, everything he said was great. It was recap today at the steering committee. About the language updates, again, this inclusivity of the town. I mean, Hindi's next. It's a simple thing, but it's, you know, they've got these languages, which I didn't realize we had all these languages on the boxes. And then I did write a letter in support of 533-4 in support of that, and submit that to powers that be. And Sharon adds some personal stuff. I'll promote the roller skating. We'll skate again on Wednesday. There are a lot of people, families and adults that are skating, and it's bring your own skates. But I got some $54 Amazon ones, and they're just as good. You know, it'll do the trick. It's a lot of fun, and I encourage people to go. A great use of the fest hall, and really see the community use the facility. It's such a neat facility in the town. So roller skating on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Want to work on bringing roller derby back.
Don't think so.
Oh, you're the one that says that.
Wait,
one
what?
person.
They just, as if. It's the stage.
It's the
If
stage.
they could do roller derby with the stage, they can do roller.
The
derby.
stage that we purchased to be able to break down in a half an hour, which it is. That's the issue. They're packed into the kitchen. We'll talk.
No,
We'll talk offline. We bought that stage so it could be broken down easily, but we'll
It's a
talk.
big stage.
That was some serious.
I'm gonna take all the half an hour.
Don't get in the way of my roller derby.
You have anything, Rona?
Let's see. Not so much. I would like to comment that the robins are back in Leavenworth.
Yeah.
And I love seeing the birds return, and they're back. And we went to Seattle and drove back into town, Kurt and I went through the roundabout. I haven't been able to travel much, and it's the first time I've come through Tumwater into the new roundabout, I think, actually. And I really like it. I think it's a big improvement. I just want to say that because for a long time, you know, we did the other thing and people weren't sure how it would go, but I think the roundabout's great. So that's my tiny report.
Yeah. Great. All right, just briefly, again, 5334, the Senate bill moved out of the local government into finance, moved out of finance, was voted out of finance now. Now it just has to get to the floor and get a floor vote. It's in the Rules Committee, and we've got an advocate in there that will seek to pull it from the rules. That's the process, and then it goes to the full. And so this is as close as we've been in forever and forever to actually have a funding stream. This would be the up to 10% tax on short-term rentals. So we'll keep bird dogging it, but it looks good. And that's my report. Selby.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Last week, we had a kickoff meeting with the Department of Ecology and Environmental Consultants AEG Atlas for the integrated planning grant. That's the $200,000 that we got from Ecology to conduct due diligence of the car wash property. A cultural resource review will need to be done prior to any ground disturbance. And that may delay this due diligence a little bit. But I'm hoping we can get the sampling done by the end of the current right of entry agreement with the property owner, which expires April 30th. I've already called them to let them know that we may need to extend it depending on the timeline with the tribes getting the cultural resource review done. Work is getting started on the fatal flaws analysis at the Osborne project. The architects have been there, Orion Environmental. They did the geotech and they determined the soils are suitable for the project, and there will be a structural engineer on site on Friday. give you more update at each meeting. Downtown Steering Committee met this morning. You guys have already heard about that twice. The first Housing Advisory Committee meeting was held on February 15th. Justin Howard was elected chair and Karen Hare was elected vice chair. And the committee has agreed to meet monthly on the fourth Thursday of each month at 3:30 in this room. And the date of the city council retreat has been set for Friday, April 19th. I believe Andrea or Sue already sent out, one of you already sent out a meeting invite. I think it was Sue. Please send me any suggestions for topics that you would like to discuss at the retreat, and then I'll lead a conversation at our next meeting.
All right, thanks. Yeah, Chantel?
My turn. Thank you, Mayor. All right, council. So the Friday after the last meeting, I'm sad to report that Brandy Minette, my assistant deputy / PRSA clerk, submitted her resignation. It is a good resignation for her, so we wish her well. She's going back to her previous employer with a raise, so she was rather excited about it. Selby and I are working on some minor amendments to the JD itself, job description, and we have to get concurrence from the union, but our hope is to get that out ASAP this week or next at the latest, we hope. In the meantime, I did reach out to Express Professionals, and last summer we had a lovely young gal by the name of Ari who stepped in while Shirley was out, and she was available, so we've got her back. So very minimal training, and she's just very bright and fun to be around. So if you see her in the front office, say hello to Ari. With that being said, because Brandy was turning around a 2-week resignation with me, I prioritized with her a few items for PRSA. So we are working on getting that packet out by this week before she leaves. In addition to that, she completed the PRSA's annual report for the state auditor's office that I'll be reviewing and finalizing after her departure. And then she's also working on a submission of an RCO grant that I'll end up completing in the end. It's due March 13th. Selby, Tom, and myself are going to be finalizing that. It's just a pre-application for an application to replace that $50,000 pump that we know needs to be replaced at the pool. This is annual report season now. So on top of the PRSA one being completed, I'll be working on the lodging tax annual report, the WashDOT annual report, which is about non-discrimination, and then also the city's main annual report itself that Shirley, my deputy clerk, is taking on for her first time fully. And then I will be reviewing all of her work. So she's been helping me for all 3 years that she's been here, doing little pieces of it. She's going to do the entire annual report. In addition, I am working on annual document updates for our city's debt schedule, as well as our equipment replacement schedule. So once I get both of those done, I will email those out to you as I do each year. Very colorful documents, shows you when, all the equipment is amortized out for replacement, when they get replaced, so you get kind of a sense of that. Same thing with the debt schedule of all the city's existing debt. After closure of the books, I was reviewing our local loan program. That was about $1.7 million that we applied for the new sweeper, the new Vector, and the 2 new dump trucks. And I hadn't done this in many years. 2015 was the last time I'd done it. And I was unaware that I had to post that I actually have the money, even though I don't have the money, when they make the sale. They made the sale on November 15th. So I just wanted to give you that heads up because you're going to notice that I've added $1.7 million to the city's books when you get your next finance report. And don't be surprised. It's like, oh my gosh, where'd all this money come from? It's still sitting at the state treasurer's office. And when we get the equipment, then I actually buy it and then I get reimbursed and they give it to me. But I have to book it in our books when they actually sold it. Finance report is in your packet. Any questions Yeah. Okay.
No,
Well,
everything went up.
Yeah.
November was profitable for us.
So this is January. Yep, it would be November.
Right,
The next one's the exciting one, right?
Right.
February is always like record breakers.
right.
All right, well, I'll see the new finance committee in March, so a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Hey, you got something?
Not a whole lot to add. We have a few, commercial building permits that are going to be issued in the next few weeks. That would be for the, housing, the apartments up Chumstick. We're having a meeting this week to kind of regroup, make sure we're all ready to go, get those out. In March 15th, the state is adopting the 2021 building codes. And so we're expecting to see kind of an influx of residential permits in the next few weeks with people trying to, vest under the current codes. Because there are some significant changes to the energy code.
Yep.
That's,
And make building even more expensive.
Yeah. That's what it tends to do, you know.
Yep.
so that's kind of all I have.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple updates. I just want to thank John Shawns for his leadership and efforts on facilitating the neighborhood playground committee. Andy gave me word that his presentation went well. So thank you, council, for being supportive of those efforts. I want to give a shout out to Chris Clanky for passing his water distribution 3 and cross connection control specialist exams. So I just want to share, Chris has been with us for about 4 months and he's obtained all his required certifications in that short amount of time. And so that's quite an accomplishment. So I just want to highlight that for Chris. And again, Chris is our water plant supervisor in our water division. Shout out to Rick Emmons and his team for repairing a troublesome water leak last week in downtown, and that was at 8th Street and the alley. It caused some adjacent property owner to have some water go into their basement. But fortunately, Rick and his team jumped on it right away and damage was minimal. Front Street Restrooms Reconstruction Project call for bids will advertise tomorrow with a bid opening on March 20th. And just a reminder, transitioning to another project, our big phase 3 sewer lining project. Just a reminder that Monday, March 18th to Friday, March 22nd, 9th Street will be closed from US 2 to Commercial Street to accommodate our last sewer lining section. So not only will 9th Street be closed during that section, but also the alley between 9th and 10th. And then the subsequent week, that would be the March 26th to the 29th, Tuesday through Friday, the alley will remain closed, but 9th Street will be open by then. The Public Works Annual Report is complete. This will be discussed next month. We're excited to share our accomplishments from 2023 and our division supervisors and other leaders in Public Works are excited to share their work plans with the council. Again, that'll happen next month. And last but not least, we have one plow truck chassis that was built and has been sent to Utah to Viking Civis for upfitting. So that's good news. It is looking favorable to receive our 2 new plow trucks before next winter. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. All right, we're at the end. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, and move. Zeke seconded. All in favor, let me see your hands. And it's unanimous. First time ever.
You ladies need signatures?
Yeah.
Come on up.
Hey.
Can we docu sign them?
Yeah.
Down here.
You signed.
Where do you need it? Okay.
Yeah.